This is Sybert signing into Kane's Wrath on the map Pipeline Fusion for Game 1 of this 2v2 show match. We've got some spectacular names in the ring today. And playing as the blue GDI in the north, this is BikeRush Owns. Playing as his teammate, slightly lighter blue, but also playing GDI. Yeah, it's a double GDI team. This is Space. Fortunately, the team in the south is going to be mixing things up a little bit. I'm very glad it is not kicking off with a four-way GDI mirror. In the south, playing Vanilla Scrin as the pinkish. This is Rex. And on the bottom right-hand corner, playing as the red black hand, this is Drive. Glad to see everyone opening up Crane first. And yes, we are using the recolor mod courtesy of Double Evil, so it should be red versus blue in every game. And if we're lucky, BikeRush and Space will stay as the blue team. Drive and Rex will stay as the red team. But it is a 2v2 show match. We have got a long series on our hands because this is a best of 11. And, I mean, when you've got potentially 11 games, but they're team games, it can really stretch out quite a ways. But if this is a show match, that means it probably has a sponsor attached, and that is Shanks. So a huge thank you to Shanks for organizing and funding this show match. The prize pool is only $50, but a big thanks to Shanks. If you guys don't know, he has been funding a ton of show matches. It is not like a, $1 million prize pool sort of thing, but the guy has been funding probably at this point like 30 show matches in the last 6 months or so. So the guy has been providing a ton of content. All sorts of people have been covering them. I think, BikeRush Owns has been playing in some of them, but I think he's also covered some of the matches as well as Master Leaf and Dune Tiger have been providing some coverage for these matches. Maybe even Drive and Futurama have been streaming them, but it's just been spread out amongst just about everybody. And ooh, we do have a command post hidden over in the corner. BikeRush Owns. It is kind of funny. Space deploys his own commands post, but in BikeRush's base. So I guess he's not expecting BikeRush to get spotted or to be scouted. And indeed, that is true. Meanwhile, BikeRush Owns is trying to hide his own tech. So it is kind of funny to see someone hide tech, but then their ally builds the exact same tech in the normal spot inside of their base. But at any rate, everybody's trying to hide tech over in this blue field. Look at that. Secret Shrine from Drive. Rex, on the other hand, he's going to be, losing a secret tank, but the Crane is going to get a couple of shots, the Lightning Spike is going to get a couple of shots on this Crane. The Crane should be fine. Flame Tank is out. These are Black Hand Flame Tanks, so maybe we will see them upgraded with Purifying Flame. Although maybe he's just getting Black Disciples. He's getting both! Look at that! He's already got Black Disciples, and it's going to be coming up soon. Purifying Flame will be added into the mix. Hammerhead is out. BikeRush Owns has spotted this man spam transition. I guess it's not really a man spam. He's spotted this infantry force here on the right side. Hammerhead gets sniped. Oh, by the way, before we get too much further, I do want to mention this is R19. So this is 1.02 plus R19. That's the funniest. Oh, is it going to work? No, it's not. Okay, that would have been sick. That's the funniest transfer of a Harvester. Reminds me of blinking stalkers in StarCraft 2 to dodge shots. But of course, with a Harvester blink like that, you really can't do very much. And Rex immediately loses the Mastermind, sniped from the sky. Was Purifying Flame canceled? No, it's just paused. All right, having maybe some cash flow problems at some point, but it is 80-90% done, so it is going to be kicking in relatively soon. Kind of a weird attacking force coming in here. Mines are going to be delaying this army, and, well, I guess that Flame Tank was maybe not well positioned as he gets sniped and immediately dropped from this world. This is going to aim to kill a couple of APCs, but not much more than that. Drive I don't know what that was, but that was kind of a weird decision to move in with that attack. There, you know, if there's nothing there, sure, that attack can do some damage, but if there is a little bit of defense, which, you know, stretching into the 6-minute mark of this game, you should expect that there is defense. I love this little counterplay, but I'm not actually sure that that's a real flame tank and a real mantis. I guess we'll see, but they have apparently snuck through the enemy lines of defense, and they are just hanging out there. So if they are real, they should really get to burning stuff down, and if they're not real, then they're just for scouting, and it doesn't matter. It's real! He sells off the tech and the refinery. BikeRush owns. Very worried, but he wants to shut down that flame tank without losing much at all. Mantis cleans up an Orca, cleans up a Hammerhead as well. Some great shots there. That was actually some value for Drive, and the second flame tank doesn't get much of all. I do love the attempt to split up BikeRush's attention, and it looks like we're going to have a wonderful catalyst missile, knocks down that refinery. So frustrating to have that happen. Fortunately for BikeRush, he actually does have another refinery ready to go, and it looks like these Drive flame tanks are not giving up. Burns down a refinery on the space side of the map, and we have been missing some Firehawk bombing runs, it seems. Firehawks are going to get off the deck. Flame tank eventually does go down, and if the Firehawks have been denying some tech, well, the Eradicator Hexapod may be delayed because of it. Another flame tank moving out. Drive getting caught and killed here by BikeRush. Those Hammerheads doing an excellent job of shutting down so many of these flame tanks. Those air units absolutely being heroes to stop these flame tanks from causing more and more damage. One power plant goes down, second power plant gets eliminated. Juggernaut not going to be able to go for the stop. The War Factory will pay the price, the refinery as well. That purifying flame is so good. He's probably going to get this tech lab as well. Down to 3/4, down to nothing, and the flame tank goes heroic before it gets eliminated. Massive action after a relatively slow beginning to this game. I am now pretty convinced that that Eradicator Hexapod was denied by those Firehawks making bombing runs at an earlier point in this game. A relatively slow opening to this game, but now suddenly exploding with action. Flame tanks getting some pretty massive damage done. Space's tech being completely reset. Fortunately for him, he's already got Juggernauts, he's already got a Marv on the front lines, and it's more about keeping this Marv alive. I love the EMP Grenadiers. I would love to see them actually get some better shots, but locking down a tripod, locking down a War Factory is certainly good enough to allow this Marv to move on forward. Flame tank finally gets that command post. Going to be potentially slowing down the production of BikeRush owns, but I'm not sure if he actually wants to build anything that depends on that flame tank. Drive may not have the biggest frontline army, but he does have the biggest flame tank moves. EMP locks down the drone ship. Juggernaut's going to be able to get some great damage off on it, and that's some big damage for that drone ship. Another EMP to lock it down, keep it in place, and there's a teleport forward. The blink lands on the EMP with that Marv. Some of those words were in the wrong order, but the Marv gets taken down, and that MCV will survive, but just barely. Well, maybe not. As these Hammerheads come in, I may have spoken a little bit too soon, and the MCV will be eliminated. Barely. The Orca Strike helps to finish it off. Eradicator Hexapod roars to life somewhere else on the battlefield. And I'm not sure. Okay, finally, we have an Eradicator Hexapod out on the field. We have a Warp Chasm. The MCV has been cleaned up, but it kind of doesn't matter because finally Rex has what he has been trying to go for this entire time, and the perfect spot in between the two buildings, gets the refinery, gets the airfield. Are you kidding me? With all of this firepower that the double GDI team has in the north, still those flame tanks make their way through the defenses almost every time, and the drone ship escapes from the gravity stabilizer. Well done by Rex to manage to escape, but this Juggernaut army still has not been dealt with. Unfortunately, that tripod gets crushed there. That husk gets crushed. Big shot on that Eradicator as all of those Juggernauts line up for a massive volley. I would love to see Space grab some of these husks. I would have loved to see him be able to grab some of those tripods to amp up this army even more. Harvesters being sent to the front lines, and now that the harassment seems to have come to an end, it comes down to the front line armies. And this is where the double GDI team has pretty much always had the advantage. Surprisingly, BikeRush has far fewer juggernauts than Space. I'm genuinely a little bit surprised that Space is out juggernauting BikeRush, but BikeRush does have those hammerheads. He's been leading pretty heavily into the aircraft for the majority of this game, and both with a healthy mix of infantry. These EMP Grenadiers are seeing much more use in this match than most other games. Sniper team off to the right here. Technology assembler being targeted. One more volley might be enough to take it down. If no engineer jumps inside of that tier 3, that might be the end of the Skrin tech. There's the sell-off. Rex doesn't want a chance at another harvester heading to the front line. There's Eradicator Hexbud trying to sneak around to the side, but the Marv catches it, and no blink away. The EMP lands. The blink was about to happen, and that is going to be it for this Eradicator. Good night, Charlie, as Rex loses his Eradicator. Hammerheads show up to get the last shot on that harvester, and more flame tanks? More flame tanks indeed. The amount of damage that has been done by Drive with these flame tanks, I think, has single-handedly kept them in this game. It feels like with the size of the frontline armies and the amount of damage that Space has been able to do, that the team in the north would have absolutely steamrolled over Drive and Rex at this point if those flame tanks had not been able to do such massive damage, slowing down the progression of Space and Bike. But even though slowing down is not stopping, Space making big progress. Meanwhile, on the right side, let's see if Drive is able to actually punch forward. MCV gets caught, as well as that power plant, but a bunch of infantry and the APC. This really breaks up the front line. BikeRush might be in a little bit of trouble here. Hammerhead's going to be coming to the front line. Massive amount of infantry. This is a lot of Confessor Cabals, but there's a good amount of rockets mixed into this as well. Every single Grenadier was being kept offline. Shockwave artillery firing off. Catches that Redeemer. Orbital bombardment as well, and it's going to be the Juggernauts from the left side landing. Massive damage that will be the end of this Redeemer, the end of this army, as BikeRush and Space say, get back down to the south. Get out of my face, get out of my base, and that will be the end of the big frontline army that Drive had. He tried to go for some kind of last-ditch effort. It did not work, and now the ground will collapse out from under them as Rex has been defeated, and Drive will spend these last few moments contemplating the next steps for game number 2. I'm actually not sure why he's still in this game. He might be fire sailing. Okay, yeah, he was fire sailing, so he was just selling everything off kind of manually instead of just leaving the game, but the GG gets called. Game 1 goes to Space and BikeRush. A slow start, and then sudden explosion into action, and pretty much non-stop mayhem after that. And that'll do it for this game. Of course, one game doesn't decide this series, because this is going to be a long one, no matter what the score is at the end of the day. And Game 2 will take us to Wasteland Dam, where actually the positions are reversed in the north. Playing as the red team, this is Drive. He's Black Hand. Meanwhile, sticking with Skrin, sticking with Pink, this is Rex. Or at least being recolored as Pink. And in the south, playing as the light blue, playing as GDI, this is Space. He's going to be sticking with the double GDI team. Hey, it worked great in game number 1. This is BikeRush owns. All right, it's BikeRush, Space, Drive, Rex. All of the factions are the same, and we'll see if history repeats itself or if the difference in map, the second chance, is enough for Rex and Drive to put a point on the board. Engineer will be able to make it safely, it looks like, to that corner Tiberium spike. So Rex is actually going to be starting the game with a pretty quick 2 spikes. I don't know that anyone will get this spike as quickly. I feel like these 2 spikes that are the kind of contended spikes are taken much less frequently, but this one seems to be taken much more often than the one in the south. So I feel like we're getting a little bit of a different take than we normally see on this map. BikeRush is a formidable opponent, as we all know, but, and I know it's a 2v2. Space is an excellent teammate, and this game was played in 2023, but in 2022, BikeRush and Space made a formidable team in a number of matches. So they do have some decent history together playing in 2v2s. Drive and Rex, much less history, but these guys have been clocking a lot of games, at least against each other. We saw that fantastic King of the Hill style show match between Drive, Rex, and Futurama, which was super entertaining and very fun to watch with the way the score got divvied up by the end of it all. But so these guys have been clocking a lot of games together. I don't know how much of a language barrier there is. Rex is Chinese, living in Canada, and Drive, I believe, is Russian. So I'm not sure if they're on comms. I'm not sure how much of a shared language there is. Space and BikeRush, I imagine they have their communication on lock, which might be not communicating at all and just playing their own styles and not being on voice comms at all. But at any rate, seems like Drive and Rex have things mostly figured out. There was a lot of good combo plays in that last game, but it just wasn't enough to beat a double GDI team. And I'm afraid that that is going to be a common story for the rest of this show match. But we can all hope. We can all hope that things will be different. Lots of pit bulls coming out from Bike. Going to be transitioning into Pred APC perhaps. Is natural expansion on the way. Drive, on the other hand, went for that double War Factory, and he's putting a bit of pressure on. Bikes and buggies, a couple of Scorps mixed in here as well. These bikes can actually land their shots without just being eliminated. They might actually be able to start winning this fight, but for now, one Predator tank goes down, and it's mostly just trades. Bikes and pit bulls going down on either side. Dev tank's going to be pushing in. Okay. Rex says, let's keep the pressure on. Let's keep moving forward. Maybe they can knock Space out of this natural expansion position. Good number of Predator tanks are here. Double War Factory on the front line for Space. So he's going to be hoping his army can keep hold. And of course, Drive, who is leading the unit count, is probably going to explode a little bit further ahead because of that barracks on the front line. This could be just a giant battleground in the south with tons of units going down on both sides, but not to be outdone. BikeRush drops double barracks himself. He is hoping that he can match the sheer numbers of Drive, and we'll see who actually wins out because this is a lot of Predator tanks pushing forward, and there's not a lot of rockets out on the front line. I really expected to see at least double barracks on the front line, so we'll see if these rockets are going to be enough to hold off this massive line of Predator tanks. MCV down to about half health. If it tries to take off now, it might die in its liftoff phase. And, well, I guess if it stays put, it's also going to die. So GG for that MCV. And I really don't think there's a gravity stabilizer out on the field. There is a nerve center, but did he actually deploy gravity stabilizer? The answer is no. So suddenly, game number 2 is looking like a not a shoe-in or a lockdown for BikeRush in Space, but they just completely eliminated an MCV from one of their opponents who doesn't have a second refinery on the natural expansion, who can't progress any further up the tech tree than pure tier 2, and who will never have a mastermind or an eradicator hexapod. And those things over the long term definitely make this feel like Bikes and Space's game to lose. I'm just kind of surprised there wasn't more infantry, there wasn't more commitment from Drive. And, well, that means Rex has overstepped. Neutral mothership spawns in. I almost said neutral mastermind, which would be a little bit goofier. Just a little mastermind running around the map and then dying. But neutral mastermind mothership spawns in. MCV stepping forward, but this is an MCV with a double war factory, single war factory behind it, and tier 3 as well. So we can expect to see lots more juggernauts onto the front line, sonic emitters perhaps as well. And Rex is not giving up. He's going to try and come around the side, snipes a couple of Predator tanks, but he's going to be losing a couple of devs behind this. And I mean, he can replace these units, but his economy is not going to be able to keep up with his opponents. And indeed, his main base is actually starting to dry up. Sonic emitter onto the front line, getting a couple of shots against these rockets, and it's going to be a Hammerhead chased away. Mothership goes down in the middle of the map, and it will be the Conyard taking a little bit of damage, but not too much. BikeRush owns and Space, they saw that MCV going down, and in the back of their mind, they're thinking, there's a good chance he doesn't have a gravity stabilizer. There's a good chance he will not be able to rebuild anything that we knock down. And a couple of APCs getting separated away from their friends. The result is going to be a couple of, not free kills, but a couple of low-cost kills there for Drive. APCs and a Predator tank looking for some soft targets, maybe hoping to run into Rex's units and his last remaining buildings to do some damage. This is going to be Drive lifting Rex. Yeah, Rex can do some amount of damage in the next couple of minutes, but the longer this game goes on, the less of a factor Rex is going to be, and now he has lost his only natural expansion refinery, which means it's going to be long-distance harvesting for the rest of the game. Oh, Reclamator Hub gets shut down. That is a great reset on the epic unit timer for Space. This is where Rex is actually starting to kind of prove his worth. He still has that nerve center. He still has 2 war factories. Of course, he doesn't have much economy to support that, but $4 grand in the bank. He can pump out a couple of units before that cash is gone. Rocket Squad's getting a couple of shots. I feel like this little commando squad is going to get eliminated. They are not behind enemy lines to do some kind of massive damage and win the day. I think they're just going to get eliminated and mopped up with the evening trash. Decent amount of dev tanks. When they get all charged up on Tiberium, they can burst down buildings and units pretty darn quickly. Redeemer steps out. Marv approaching a quarter of the way done. We'll see if Rex is able to shut that down again, but Rex's building count continues to dwindle. Game 2 looking like a repeat from Game 1. Different map, same story. BikeRush owns going to be taking the middle field in the top left. He's going to be saying, I'm pretty confident I can take this field. That economy is going to allow me to catapult into the later stages of the game. Rex, good control with these Corruptors and massive amount of damage onto the Conyard, kind of slowing down the attack, forcing some building drops, but once this engineer hops on out, he's going to be able to get right back to producing, I assume, refineries to start taking advantage of this third field. Okay, there I assume is the engineer on the way. Dev Tank's going to be back in on up. Rex trying to keep himself an active part of this game. Railguns finishes up for Space, so he's getting those late game upgrades and focusing on a big, heavy ground army. No portal. Yeah, I guess the portal was on the front lines, and that got cleaned up, so no hope of engineer caps. Getting that second tib spike right at the beginning of the game, turns out, was a massive part of the match for Rex. That is one of those things where he just got it because he thought maybe he could, and also gives him a little bit of an advantage, of course. And the fact that he has no natural expansion means that having that extra couple of, extra $600 a minute is a huge portion of his income. I don't think these Juggernauts are going to let this Marv go down. No, and indeed Rex is forced to retreat. More Mantis Flame Tank combos, which, can do some pretty massive damage as we saw in that last game. Rage Gen fires off. Not much here for it to affect, but a little bit, as Space is hoping to hold off Rex and potentially hold off Drive at the same time. BikeRush owns, I assume, is going to have to come to the rescue as Drive moves in. Decent amount of infantry, decent amount of bike buggy, Tib Core bikes, and EMP buggies means that there is some staying power in this army, and that is a lot of dev tanks. They can't really fight against the artillery of Space. Those Juggernaut numbers are getting well, not impressive, but they can swell quite a bit. And now the weakness of this army is, of course, against the anti-air. There are a couple of gunwalkers here. That's a decent amount of hammerheads all clumped up, but no splash damage to take them down. And unfortunately for Rex, he gets pushed back. I'm actually kind of surprised there's only 3 Juggernauts there on the front line for space. Marv steps forward. It's going to take a decent amount of damage from these dev tanks. I imagine if they could actually all get in range, they would actually burst down that Marv pretty quickly, but they have not gotten in range. Juggernaut's starting to pick them off, and the dev tanks bleeding out one by one. BikeRush owns basically taking this entire top field by himself. Not much of a contest from Drive. Drive has decided to move down to the southern half of the map. And hey, that's where Rex is, so it's probably better to fight 2 together rather than leave Rex to die out on his own. And it feels like a losing proposition from our red team. Oh, he's going to snipe a Harvester. Always nice to pick off a stray Harvester. This late in the game, where you don't necessarily need a ton of Harvesters around the map. Ooh, that's a bit painful for Rex. At least one of those Harvesters had a decent amount of Tiberium in it. The other one, well, they might have been empty, but still, when you're long-distance mining, the Harvesters matter a lot more than when you are not. Bye-bye! Harvesters have been cleaned up. War Factory is about to be eliminated, so what you see is what you get. Stealth tanks move in. No, those were just buggies and bikes. No stealth tanks for you. I guess when you're playing Blackhand, that's kind of the choice that you make. And the Hammerheads may be able to escape here, but they have done the damage that they needed. They have knocked down that War Factory, and this entire engagement is just extending out. Space has an engineer there. MCV gets redeployed, and things are looking worse and worse as every minute goes by. BikeRush kind of late to the... Okay, there Rex goes. So everything is in Drive's hands. And, I mean, now he's got $8 grand in the bank, but... that doesn't really compare to the double income, double micro, double production of this double GDI team in the South. Game 3, another shot for the red team to try and make a comeback here. And it was an okay start. Once that MCV went down, it was sort of, they were playing from behind no matter what happens. Shockwave Artillery catches that Redeemer, and is going to be able to, allow the GDI team massive damage to the Redeemer. Surprisingly, the Juggernauts have not all leveled it. This is a lot of Juggernauts, and they were kind of spreading their fire out across the infantry on the right side, some of these other units. But regardless, the Redeemer will not fall. Huge army from Drive. I mean, 85 units on the board. He does have more units than everyone else combined, but these are low health, low tech units against the best that GDI has to show. And, well, Shockwave Artillery is going to be firing off again. Orbital Bombardment as well. This is a 1-2 punch from a GDI team who has basically all of the options that they could ever hope to have in front of them. And very few problems to overcome. Massive amount of splash damage from those Juggernauts onto that Marv, and space is actually kind of collapsing. This is doing nothing to stop space in the corner of the map. This is doing nothing to stop the army that is moving forward over here, but space's old natural is getting cleaned up. I mean, it's not going to win the game, but hey, every bit of damage is nice. EMP on this Marv is also nice. These Raider buggies being produced just fast enough to keep the EMP hopes alive. No, don't EMP your own buggy. Okay, all right. Perfect lineup here from Drive. He's going to be able to bleed that Marv dry as long as he keeps this chain going. Nice Orca strike there in front of that War Factory. Could have potentially stopped the buggies, and yeah, this is just the perfect EMP chain coming out from Drive. What an amazing 1v2 this would be if he could somehow bring this one back. And it looks like the fact that Drive took over from Rex maybe has caused a little bit of a problem with the building counter, because Drive definitely has more than 0 buildings. And now he's down to 30 units. How the mighty have fallen. 85 units down to not even 30 now, as he might be able to get Bike's Marv, but not much more than that. Space and Bike as a team, excuse me, are undefeated in this show match so far. It's only 2 games, but that double GDI is so powerful. Rex was trying to keep up the pressure, trying to gain an earlier game advantage, and it just turned against him when that MCV got sniped. And that'll do it for Game 3. That sends us, no, that does it for Game 2. That sends us into Game number 3, which sends us on to the map Tiberian Forest, which is a new one for me, although, as I think you'll see, it's maybe not so much of a new one. Once again, we're sticking with all of the same factions. You guys know it. This is Drive. And his teammate has the pink screen. It's Rex. Rex, we see him have some amazing games, some great performances, and then we also see him lose his MCV at like the 4-minute mark and then slowly die. As the dark blue, this is BikeRush owns double GDI team once again, playing as the light blue. This is Space. All right. It's 2-0, and now we are on another classic map. Technically, this is slightly different, but yeah, this is the Forgotten Forest style of map. I think this is just a tile shift from that, although I think we have a bunch of variants of that map already. It looks like the layout is, I guess maybe this blue field is different. Okay, yeah, the Mutant Hovel is different, and I guess this crater is a little differently shaped. But other than that, EMP Control Center in the north as well. Okay, so there are some minor differences between the version of this map that you're probably all familiar with. If you're not, well, this is basically Tournament Rift, one of the most popular maps, well, the most popular competitive map from 2008 to 2016 or something. This is just a 2v2 variant of it. I don't know who came up with the first version of it, but there have been a bunch of versions of this. I love the early bike harass. We'll see if it actually gets anything done. Space has a couple of pit bulls here. He has a watchtower as well. If they killed a tip spike this early on, I would also love that. I don't know that it'll happen, but I would like to see those things. Space nice and far with that MCV deploy. He's going to have good build radius for both him and Bike to build off of. And where this game usually, well, where this map usually is decided is in between the bases. Oftentimes, the beginnings of the game is very similar for both teams. And then where we see the divergence is as the natural expansions come up online, they get fully saturated, and then we see what the players decide to do with them and try and take these third fields. This is one of those games, this is one of those maps where it so often just hinges around who is able to actually hold on to that third base for the longest, who's able to make the most use of that third field. So we'll keep our eye on that. For now, the aggression is kind of switching sides. We saw a little bit of bike pressure coming out from Drive, but now BikeRush owns says, I got pit bulls, I got APCs, and I think I can kill some of your harvesters, or maybe I'll just trade out for your bikes. Nice splitting of these pit bulls to clean up multiple bikes at once. APC does deploy the mines, and okay, some of these other pit bulls are overkilling these bikes, but that first volley was a nice split. Drive going to be pulling that harvester offline, and Rex going to be throwing a couple of units at this defense as well. Rex is going to be pulling back in the south. His units are deciding to not commit any further into the attack, and it's a big spend on defense. It's a disruption to the harvesting paths, but ultimately, Drive not losing any harvesters, not taking too much damage from these pit bulls. Although this pressure might be keeping up, BikeRush is sending a couple of more units across the map. This might just be more pit bull pressure. It's going to be forcing a portal, even more of a response. This is, not game-ending damage forcing all of this response, but it is definitely slowing down Drive from where he would like to be. Behind this, he does have a natural expansion. He does have some kind of economy going on down in the south, but it's only 2 harvesters. So percentage-wise, his income is cut down a decent amount from where he would like it to be. I mean, if you just check the main base fields on the minimap, Bike and Space has harvested so much more of their main fields than Drive and Rex has. Although Rex is actually leading the board in total resources gathered, and Drive is last place, down 6,000 credits from his opponents on the other side of the map. So yeah, not the end of the world, but that is the difference that attack made, slowing down roughly 5 grand worth of resources from reaching Drive. Hopefully, we'll be able to see him bounce back. Rex is fully powered up, it seems. He's up to tier 3. He's getting some upgrades. Multiple refineries in the south. 4 harvesters as well. So he's not fully saturated down there, but pretty darn close. And, well, maybe he's stealing some blue Tiberium as well. No, all right. It looks like no harvesters to the blue Tiberium just yet for either team. Never mind. Space is arriving right as I say that. Making a liar out of me. Secret tanks moving into the main base of Space and Bike, but I don't know that they're going to be able to accomplish all that much. 3 Firehawks are here. That means Drive and Rex have some Stratofighter bombing runs to worry about. And we saw this in game number 1. Maybe it'll happen again here. Although Stratofighter, yeah, look at this. They are fully prepared for this. BikeRush places a beacon, and is it going to be enough? Okay, he goes for the splash damage. It's enough. There's the reset returning from game number 1, the Eradicator reset. Such a powerful tool in the GDI arsenal. I mean, regardless of what Scrin faction you are, whether it's Trav or Vanilla Scrin or even Reaper, when you can reset and slow down that Eradicator hexapod timing, there are so many Scrin players, or so many times where Scrin players, their main source of value in the game across all stages, all ranks of tier, is that hexapod. The hexalaming strategy is where most of their value comes from. And when you can delay that, give yourself an extra minute or 2, it just gives you such a better chance and such a better opportunity of being able to knock down that strategy and not have to deal with it. And this is not enough anti-air to stop these Firehawks. So if they want to, they can Stratofighter over here again, find a similar kind of angle kind of from the north of that tier 3, and knock it down potentially again. We'll see if he actually manages to pull that off. Black Hand Flame Tank in the north once again gets spotted, cleans out that building. And, well, that Harvester doesn't have much blue Tiberium, but it does get sniped regardless. Okay, never mind. Don't go for the tier 3. Just go for the Eradicator hexapod itself. And that's a double reset now by Space on that Eradicator hexapod. So Rex floating 8 grand in the bank, 7K more harvested than anyone else in the game. And it's all in the bank. He's tried to get out that Eradicator, and he just can't. He has the money for it, and he just can't get it out. His entire strategy has been focused on that Eradicator, has been building towards that Eradicator, and now it's been denied twice. A big slowdown there. He's still trying to take the middle of the map. He's looking for that 3rd base position as Space and BikeRush move their Marvs into those positions as well, hoping to knock down, and, well, there's going to be another delay. Regardless of what he actually had constructed, that might have actually just canceled the constructing of the replacement warp chasm. So that very well could be a 3rd delay. I mean, if BikeRush and Space win this game, it'll, that'll be a part of it. Not the only part of it, but that will definitely be a part of it as we see some pretty big fight coming on here. Stasis doesn't grab the Marv. Somewhat surprisingly, the Marv does manage to avoid that, but this is a lot of infantry firepower, and now that the Gunwalkers are here, it's going to be just a little bit of firepower to back up that infantry army as it expires. The tripods are what we actually need to break through the front line, and BikeRush Owns is now actually a little bit worried about this. He has sniper teams. No Space has sniper teams landing on the front line. They're instantly getting buzzer swarmed, and, well, one of the sniper teams at least does survive, but all of the infantry is already dead. The infantry got wiped out. And unfortunately for Drive and Rex, that Marv had more than enough time to retreat away from the front line. That Marv took massive damage, and then it just was allowed to escape. So the unfortunate thing for Drive and Rex is that they were not able to catch and kill Bike's Marv. All right, Rex, has he actually been allowed to get his tech back up and running? We have seen so many flame tanks produced by Drive in this game. I have not seen a single flame tank actually get any damage done. Maybe I've just missed them, but I haven't actually seen any flame tanks get some damage done. All right, well, 3-4 flame tanks along the southern edge of the map. That might actually do some big damage, but it won't do anything to stop the army that's already built. The army that's already here by BikeRush in space, it's a massive army to deal with. And, you know, we'll see. We'll see exactly what they're able to do against so much juggernaut and firepower. You know, flame tanks are nice, but you still need something to deal with that massive wall of juggernauts. Rage Gen getting some big damage, allowing these rockets to land some shots on the Marv. Does mean, once again, BikeRush is going to have to retreat away from the front line. Hammerheads find and kill every single one of those flame tanks. Unfortunately for Drive, you know, Blackhand, no stealth flame tanks to try and sneak past the front line defenses, but this might be the end of BikeRush's front line. This combination of beam cannons, I may have spoken too soon. Shockwave artillery lands, but the phase is going to save that Redeemer. The front line fight is not over. Keep in mind, behind this, there's a massive Hammerhead army, so that can swing the value proposition at any point in this game, but not if they get caught by these gunwalkers. Way down here in the south, Zone Trooper Hammerheads are extremely effective at killing off those big, expensive, high-tech units. But back in the north, the double Marv fight continues on. The MCV is going to be able to escape this time. Oh, maybe he was hoping to blink it away, but it did not happen. He finally gets the teleport away now. I'm not sure how or where he actually sent it away to, but the double Marv is going to be able to hold the front line. No fancy snipes on those Marvs from the beam cannons. All right, he's bleeding some of the health away, but Drive and Rex, they have a much better chance in this game than they did in the last one, but it's still not won yet. And I do wonder how different this game would look if Space had not 3 times denied that Eradicator, denied the tech, reset the warp chasm, all of that stuff, how different this game would look. We've also seen a little bit of a lack of one-clicks from Drive. He has not been knocking down his opponents with those expensive one-clicks, so I also wonder if Drive's tech was slowed down, or maybe he just didn't have the cash to go for the chemical plant and the one-clicks. Oh, this is a great little hit squad. 4 tripods managing to make their way through to the back line of Space. Okay, 2 tripods are going to be kind of split off, trying to find some other avenue to do some damage. And the warp chasm once again going to be getting shut down. The air units of this GDI team just will not be stopped. Rex is doing some damage, but it's not going to be making up for how much damage he just took back home. 1 tripod gets blinked away, and I love that from Rex, but I just don't think it's enough. Okay, Space loses his Marv at the front line, and once again, Drive has got this massive army, 100 units out on the field versus 20 and 40, 29 and 40 for Space. Doesn't tell the whole story, of course, because of the value of those units. If this, you know, comes down to one big fight, maybe Drive can punch through with his massive infantry army. But if the fight extends out a little bit, his infantry army is going to be reduced down like that. Oh, that was a huge Orca strike. And now look at this. BikeRush is going to be coming in with a couple of Hammerheads just to knock down those infantry numbers. It's not about winning the fight. It's just about cutting down those numbers and slicing off pieces of this army. Space has been defeated. Finally, Rex and Drive have a little bit of space to breathe. They have a little bit of value to try and bring into this game. But actually, how was Space defeated? Because if that Hammerhead army didn't get passed along to BikeRush, that could be an absolute massive problem. I'm not sure what happened there with Space, but suddenly Drive and Rex are looking to be in a much better spot. Rex is, I think, once again in this awkward spot of not having an MCV. I believe it got sniped kind of in the middle of the map. He does have Gravity Stabilizer, and he's got $3 grand in the bank, so hope springs eternal for Rex to get himself back in this game. He's still got a Harvester. He's going to be using that guy to work away, and it looks like Harvester getting sniped on the other side of the map. These Storm Riders, built to deny some of the Hammerhead damage, are now going to be actually going after the Harvesters, doing a little bit of damage, and there's a sell-off of an AA battery. Things are suddenly looking a little bit stressed for BikeRush owns. He's still got a massively powerful army, and he can punch through the front door and do some big, big damage, especially if he lands this Shockwave Artillery. BikeRush owns never gets robbed by the RNG, but the phase lands anyways, and that is going to be a safe redeemer. He needs to focus his fire on the beam cannons, keep this Marv alive, and keep the beam cannons from doing too much damage. No problem, says BikeRush, as his Juggernauts smash through that front line of attacks. The Crane and the Tier 3 of Rex once again going to be under threat here as that front line of artillery moves ever closer to the main base of Drive, that original starting location. Descent's going to be able to find a little bit of damage here. Some pretty big damage done to that Marv down below half health, but that is where the DPS will suddenly slow down. Behind this, Flame Tank burning through the back line of BikeRush owns, and this is where the value is found, because if you can defeat the army and deny the tech, BikeRush owns may have cash in the bank, but he's going to have no tech, no production to rebuild with. His Marv is completely unsupported on the front line here, just taking massive damage, and that'll be the end of the Marv as the rockets find their marks, and that Storm Rider gets so many shots in. Pew, 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 doing whatever he can as Rex has been defeated. It's now a 1v1. A Flame Tank burning through so many buildings of BikeRush owns. That fully heroic Flame Tank with its last breath still gets a kill on a power plant, and Rex out of the game means that Drive has to keep up the 1v1 damage. He snipes a Juggernaut with a lightning spike. A massive win to knock down these numbers by whatever means he can. These Juggernauts are an undefeatable force if they have a little bit of space between them and their opponent, and every one that Drive knocks down is one less problem he has to worry about. Massive fire sale on the front lines. Drive has almost nothing left. BikeRush owns has almost nothing left, but the APC Juggernaut army might just be too much for Drive, and it looks like that's going to be the end of the story as Drive has been defeated. Bike and Space still claim the victory. What an almost comeback. I thought for sure Drive and Rex were going to take that one, but it just was not enough. Space and Bike still coming through with the win, despite the fact that Space dropped out. Space was the first to fall, but it was still too much momentum. Man, Rex never able to get that economy back online. I thought he still was going to be able to slowly make a comeback, and, well, maybe if BikeRush owns hadn't put so much pressure on, maybe he would have been able to. But that will do it for game number 3. It is a clean scoreboard for both teams, a 0 versus a 3. Game 4, things are getting dangerous. You don't have a lot more to give in a best of 11. Which takes us to the map Pandora Blah. I don't know if they were naming this map and they just kind of gave up. They were like, I want to call it Pandora something. And then they just couldn't think of that something. But at any rate, it's game 4. Things are getting very dangerous. But it's still the double GDI team on the left. This is Space. And this is BikeRush owns. Ooh, going Refinery first. Okay. We'll take a look at that in just a moment. But on the other side of the map, still playing Scrin, but this time he's Traveler 59. This is Rex. And as the Black Hand, always Black Hand in this series, this is Drive. I am genuinely surprised we have not seen any marked of Kane. The double GDI team does not surprise me. This has been the favorite faction for, you know, the last year or so. And I guess there's only one Tibbs bike per okay. All right. I feel like maybe I have seen this map before because this expansion point in the corner seems really familiar. I don't remember the name, Pandora Blaha, but, and that is B-L-A-H. I'm not just, like, mispronouncing something. It's actually called Pandora Blah. The expansion point in the corner seems really familiar, so maybe I have casted this map and I don't remember the name. But other than that, just taking a little gander around this map. Kind of a weird setup. I guess it's... What is that frozen 2v2 map with the battleship in the middle? I don't remember the name of that. Anyways, it kind of is similar to that in that you have like 2 small fields for one player and then 1 big field for the other, but I think this is a little bit of a smaller map. And then you also have a 3rd field, but it starts as nothing, and maybe it's a slow growth field. Bike is going to have a little bit of bikes to worry about, but looks like Watchtower and a Pitbull are going to be enough to keep those bikes at bay for now. Now, Space is going to have a couple of bikes to worry about. Pretty early MCB moves to expansions. Yeah, this seems like a pretty small, or a pretty short walk to your expansions for a 2v2 map. Like, look how much BikeRush's MCV moved. Not even a full screen length, and same thing, not even a full screen height for Space to get to his natural expansion. So very short walks to your natural expansion. Sometimes 2v2 maps, you know, it's 4 players, so they generally tend to be a little bit bigger, and longer walks to your expansion tends to be a side effect of that, but not so with this map. Very short walks to your natural, so I expect it'll be lots of starting cash, big incomes on this map, and we'll see how the game actually develops. Now, it is a 3-0. Bike and Space, they are feeling very confident, especially after that last game where Space dropped out and Bike played, you know, 5 minutes of a 1v2 and ended up winning. Obviously, from that position, Rex had taken massive damage, so it wasn't a 1v2 where the 2 players are fully powered up. Space did his work. He did massive damage at the last minute or 2 before he tapped out. He did huge amounts of damage, so it's not a pure 1v2 in that case. But still, BikeRush owns held his own, did not allow the comeback to happen, did not allow the 1v2 to actually be a problem. And here we're seeing Rex put a little bit of pressure on. Descent's going to be able to grab 3 Pitbulls. That's a great kill for those Descents, but the real value will be coming if they kill any Harvesters. The answer right now is no. No Harvesters will go down. APC's dropping some mines as well, just making these Seeker tanks have even less opportunity to really do anything. Bikes and Buggies going to be putting a little bit of pressure on in the north. Snipe maybe a couple of APCs. I don't know that any Harvesters have actually gone down here. They're all pretty much at full health, so not sure that it's been that. Oh, okay, now we're getting something done. Here we go as Rex finds 1 kill, maybe a 2nd kill. This Descent hit squad sneaks in from the side, down around the edge of the map. I love that. There's so much space around this field because of its position. Normally it's a little bit closer to the bottom of the map, but in this case, Rex finds an angle and does some massive damage. The command post will not be sniped. That would actually be a pretty serious kill, especially if Space lost a Harvester and then lost that command post with the AP ammo more than halfway done. That would be pretty big. This Harvester is on the edge. Space needs to pull that back. He barely does in time. Ooh, that was dangerous timing. And yeah, Traveler 59, you can steal those Harvesters, and 4 Cultists is enough to wreck an economy. Even if the Cultists do get sniped, that Harvester might be dead, or it might be on the other side of the map. Hammerheads aren't going to dive in on those Cultists. Whatever was launching that battle marker in the north has now been cleaned up. This is a lot of Watchtowers. Tier 3 finally getting established for Space. We'll see if he goes for any Hammerheads, or excuse me, any Firehawks. 2 APCs do get grabbed. One of them gets eliminated. Second one might get thrashed. Yeah, Cultists don't get targeted down, so There we go, the blink forward. Area mind control only grabs one of the APCs. Prodigy is going to be able to escape for now. BikeRush putting a little bit of pressure on Rex. Looks like the Storm Column will keep him safe for now. Income's relatively even between everyone. Drive still down about 5 grand compared to everyone else, but Rex up about 3 to 4 grand over his opponents. So very similar to last game. Drive a little bit lower off in income, but massive infantry army to make up for it. He doesn't have necessarily as many harvesters or refineries as quickly as his opponents, but he does always have that massive rocket army, which thus far has not given him control in the mid-game, but it's at least his choice for how he is going to survive to the late game, and so far it's worked. Orca Strike comes in, and for the first time, space will not stop the Eradicator Hexapod from spawning in. Finally! Ooh, Hammerhead's finding a flame tank in the north. Finally, Rex gets his Eradicator Hexapod out, pre-8 minutes. He gets it out at very comfortable timing. Drive manages to clean up at least one refinery of spaces on the natural expansion. Nicely done. APC somehow sneaks through enemy lines, manages to do some scouting for BikeRush. Tripods out onto the front line, and now that things are a little bit more established for Rex, I feel like he has got the best chance at actually contributing to the late stages of this game. All the other matches pretty much, maybe not that first one, but all of the other matches, well, no, at the first one he did get his Eradicator sniped again. So yeah, Rex has been unable to really participate in the late stages of the game until now. He's finally a participant. He's got a Prodigy. He's got an Eradicator. He's got a blink forward onto a bunch of Harvesters. He gets one right out of the gate. The Juggernaut doesn't go down, but a second Harvester gets eliminated, and there's the blink away. 2 Harvesters down, minimal damage, because these Corruptors are on site to immediately heal up this Eradicator. And it's going to be a big APC army, probably snipers nearby as well. Grenadiers also, it seems like, to support the fight against this huge army of Drive. This is really turning into a 1v1 in the north and a 1v1 in the south. I mean, it's double GDI, so the blue team can support each other with their exact same units, whereas the red team has to find the best units that combine with their ally. But it could be just, tons of sonic emitters about to be deployed. We'll see. BikeRush pushes forward. Juggernaut's on the front line. Rage Gen fires off. We'll see if this Marv actually takes massive damage. The Hammerhead's getting thinned out, and there's still a good number of rockets. There's going to be the slow field on top of the MCV, on top of the Juggernauts as well. Drive pushing forward. Maybe he can snipe that MCV. For now, he hasn't been able to do much to this Marv. It's still pretty healthy. Sonic emitter on the north side from space, getting a massive shot off against that infantry army, really cutting down the numbers. And the blink forward, it's going to be the Prodigy and the blink from this Eradicator Hexapod. Rex may have overcommitted into the enemy. Never mind. He phases, and that will be safety for that Eradicator. He can escape nicely from the front lines. And, no harm, no foul. Rex switches to Traveler 59, and now he is much more a contestant in the late stages of this game. Oh, that buzzer comes in. The EMP still catches that Eradicator. It looks like it was a little bit off-center, but it does still catch the Eradicator. Keeps it locked down. The phase lasts a long time, but it doesn't last forever. Okay, it lasted long enough, just long enough. The Eradicator does not get EMP'd. Shockwave Artillery lands. It finds its mark. Redeemer goes down. Marv has already been eliminated. Juggernauts need to get their targets locked on very quickly. Second EMP comes in. Those Grenadiers have been landing their shots. all series long. They have found big, massive damage against the red team, and the Redeemer goes down. Trade 1-for-1 on the Epic unit front, and these buggies going to be escaping the front line. There is still a massive Juggernaut army to worry about, but without that Marv, they can't move forward quite as quickly. I guess massive Juggernaut army is a bit of an overstatement. 4 Juggernauts in the north, 3 Juggernauts in the south. The Eradicator still is around, and this Marv is guarded up with 4 Zone Troopers, so no healing powers for this Marv. It can only absorb so many shots, and these tripods are going to make sure that they get those shots. 1 tripod down. Okay, maybe not, because I thought all 4 of these tripods were going to be moving in to try and go for some kind of an EMP lockdown on this Marv, but it is not meant to be, and Rex is going to be pulling away from the front line. Raider Buggy's going to be coming in. We knocked down 1 Marv. Let's see if we can do it again. The answer is no, as those Raider Buggies do not find their mark, do not close the distance, and for now, Space is allowed to escape. A bit of an awkward transition as Rex tries to find an angle to escape from one of his GDI opponents, only to be trapped by his other GDI opponent. And there's a blink away by a Prodigy somewhere onto the map. I'm not actually sure where he went. Maybe hunting for an MCV, but it looks like he's not going to find it. And this is such an awkward sandwich being built. Rex kind of in the middle of Bike and Space, but maybe it really means Bike is in the middle of Rex and Drive. We'll see who actually ends up winning out in the long run. Space moving forward. A ton of damage can be output by this Marv. It's now up to a single rank, but still no repairs are nearby. I guess it just doesn't matter because these Juggernauts find massive damage against that drone ship, which gets blinked away just an incredibly short distance, moments before that Prodigy gets eliminated, and that might be just enough space for this drone ship to survive. Desperately hoping to avoid any anti-air, threading the needle, it feels like, as Space turns back around. He gets the lockdown. 1 EMP lands, but that might be the only EMP. That might be the only EMP needed. The Eradicator goes down. No saving for that Eradicator, and that is a fully heroic Bike out on the front line. EMPs just causing mass chaos as Rex tries to escape, and I feel like I have no idea who is actually ahead or behind in this match. It is turned around so many times, and Rex is technically escaping, but does he actually have an army? I guess Rex doesn't have much to show for it. He's got a couple of tripods, but maybe BikeRush owns is about to collapse here as Rex closes in and looks to deny this base that BikeRush owns has tried to set up for himself. A Sonic Emitter is out there on the front lines, but it's not close enough to this MCV to stop it from getting locked down. 2 or 3 engineers getting eliminated, and none of the husks were actually recovered. Drive with bikes and buggies trying to hold off this front line attack, and he's held on long enough that it actually seems like he might survive, but Space is still cooking with this Marv, now elite in the south. His Juggernaut army has been cut down, but it's still here. 2 Juggernauts, a couple of APCs, and a rig to support this Marv as they move ever closer to the main base, to the key critical infrastructure of the red team. But I guess this is some kind of an even match. I feel like it's such an awkward combination. Space has power in the south, but Drive and Rex, mostly Rex, if we're honest, has power in the north. Tripods moving forward. 1 Juggernaut recovered from the GDI team, and these Corruptors keep these tripods at full health pretty much no matter what happens. Bikes, not a lot of power in them, but 2 or 3 of them are fully heroic. Yeah, 2 of them are fully heroic, so when they do land those shots, the damage is massive. They just don't have much health between the 3 of them. What a weird match this one is turning into, and with the scoreboard being so heavily Space and Bike favored, Drive, BikeRush has been defeated. It is all coming down to Space, and this is the win that Drive and Rex needed. They are so close to elimination, so close to being knocked out Oh, 3-4 harvesters getting cleaned up. You don't need all of these harvesters, but you want to have some kind of economy as the game progresses even further into the latest stages of the match. And I guess Drive or Space is going to have to just rely on that Marv, because pretty much every other harvester is going to be getting eliminated. This choice to get out the rig might have been the smartest thing that Space did in this game. And I think it is telling that BikeRush Owns is the one who quit out. It's not like Space quit out and handed everything over to Bike to try and give Bike the best chance and basically say, okay, I think you're going to play my hand better than I can, so I'm going to hand my cards over to you. No. BikeRush Owns is the one who tapped out, so all of the confidence is on Space in this position. They're not trying to pull some kind of switcheroo. All right, Drive still has an MCV. I feel like Space lost. No, he did save that MCV. That MCV's so low on health. Rex is who I was trying to talk about. Rex has that MCV. He's got almost $3 grand in the bank. I think maybe he still has a tib spike somewhere. He's got a refinery down there. He's got a tib spike as well. So Space is going to have to deal with Rex and Drive. But right now, Rex doesn't have much infrastructure out on the field. So Rex can't really rebuild anything yet. But he will eventually be able to rebuild. These two harvesters are just going to get picked off once again. Space is just going to have to rely on these rigs, the Marv and the MCV, to try and find some way to survive in this game. Drive has driven very far away, but he's deployed his MCV. He's got 18 hundo in the bank, and he does still have a tib spike. So Rex and Drive are now officially in their best position ever. It's a 1v2. We've seen that before, but this 1v2 is very different from the one we saw earlier. MCV escapes the corner. I have to imagine that portal was for an engineer to jump inside of that MCV and get it back up to full health, but that didn't actually happen. Fortunately for Rex, he does still have 3,400 in the bank, and this tib spike down here is still around. He could sell off that refinery if he wants a little bit of a cash boost, and that would, that would help him get out maybe a refinery in a better location that actually has a harvester a little bit more quickly. But this is kind of do or die for Space. He's got that MCV. Rex now has -1 units, which is funny to see for just a moment there. And, well, he's got the portal now. What is he doing? Oh, he is going to Sense. I'm kind of surprised he's going to Sense. And I do love that he dropped the power plant in the south. So it's like, you always have that little bit of an insurance policy. This harvester for Space. I guess for the last couple of minutes, Space actually hasn't had... I thought those Juggernaut shots were going to land on the MCV. Space hasn't had any harvester or any refinery, so yeah, I guess the harvesters really don't matter. But if he ever wants to get out of this situation, he will need those harvesters. Drive has a massive infantry army, but can he actually get the damage done? No sniper teams, just a lot of riflemen here on the front line, and Drive says, let's end it. Let's make it happen. It's all going to come down to this fight right here, right now. A couple of tripods going to be moving forward. Goes heroic on a quad zone trooper Marv. So much damage output, but maybe it just doesn't matter. Hammerheads getting picked off, rocket squads, and those heroic bikes finally finding their heroic kills to end the air superiority of Space. The MCV running from the front lines. I love the power plants just try and slow down the army, and those bikes get massive damage. The dodge and weave with these bikes is almost perfect, but it's just not meant to be, as Drive and Rex will find their first win of this series, keeping the hope alive, keeping their hopes and dreams of winning this series alive. The GG comes out. They have done it. Oh, it's not going to be a clean sweep. Either way, no matter what the score is, no matter how the series goes on from here, it is not going to be a shutout. It is not going to be a clean sweep. It was looking like it. I was like, did someone really send me a 2v2 show match where it's just Bike and Space stomping the life out of Drive and Rex? But no, these games have been so close, and finally the scoreboard is starting to reflect that. So let's jump into the next match. And that takes us to the map Desert Rampage. A little bit of a twist on Red Zone Rampage. In the south is our red team. No changes there. But in the north, our blue team is no longer a double GDI team, as Space has opted for Black Hand. Other than that, it's a map where you start on blue Tiberium, and if you're familiar with Red Zone Rampage, then this map is going to be looking very similar to you, but has a little bit more space to it, a little bit more around the edges. That's one of the big changes, is that there is actually this space to traverse, not a lot, but a little bit of space to traverse around your fields. You got these tib spikes, nice and close, easy to capture. And then instead of giant fields, well, not really giant, but these skinny, long fields that connect all of the main bases, you have instead double green per player. So obviously this is a map where you get a ton of money super duper quickly. And in Space's case, he says, I think I can flame rush my opponents, and that may very well work out to his advantage. But there is one more thing that I've been meaning to say this entire time, and if you clicked on this video, well, big thanks for clicking on it. I appreciate you being willing to click on a thumbnail, because that thumbnail was made by this guy right here, Drive. Also, he made the Winter Championship thumbnail. He's done, if you see like a thumbnail of mine, or even on someone else's channel, and it's like, oh, that's a cool piece of art, something cool looking from the game, but it doesn't look like my normal style, there's like a 99% chance that Drive is the one who made it. And he came up with a thumbnail for this video. So big thanks to you for clicking on a thumbnail that doesn't at all look like the stuff that I normally put out. And I am curious if that is going to like cause a problem where people won't realize it's one of my videos and don't check it out, or maybe it has no effect at all, or maybe more people click on it. Who even knows? But I definitely appreciate it, because making thumbnails is just something you have to do if you make YouTube videos, and it is one of those things that sometimes I'm done in 5 minutes because I have a great idea right from the beginning, and sometimes I spend an hour and, you know, I make 6 thumbnails. I always make multiple thumbnails for each video, but sometimes it takes like an hour just to do it all. And this one, it's already done, just like this drone ship is almost done from life. That gravity stabilizer is not where Rex probably wanted to deploy that, but that was a critical move that he just made to stop Space from insta-killing his drone ship, because beam cannons burn down, and it's gone. And it is gone. Oh, that mothership drone ship barely managed to escape. That was perfect timing. If he would have waited a few moments longer, those beam cannons would have acquired target, and as soon as that drone ship enters the liftoff or landing stage, it is so extra vulnerable to damage that those beam cannons would have instantly deleted the rest of its health bar, and that would have been the end of the line for that MCV. There is still a ton of units here. We'll see if Rex is able to hold off Space. Flame Tank does go down. Storm Riders are here. A couple of Dev Tanks as well, but it's going to be reinforcements from Drive that really help to seal the deal. Infantry Army is very slow to get over to the Space side of the map and help kick him back up to the north. I'm actually kind of surprised we haven't seen more support from BikeRush owns in this attack. He is now lending a couple of hammerheads here to the assault. He'll be able to clean up a dev tank, clean up maybe a couple of rocket squads as well, but ultimately 3-4 hammerheads are not going to be the game winner there on the left side of the map. Maybe it's just a bit of a distraction because on the right side, BikeRush owns has got his Marv on the way. He's got a couple of Juggernauts, but he's actually pushing forward into the guns of Drive. Fortunately for BikeRush owns, Drive has already diverted nearly half of his infantry army over to the left side of the map. Otherwise, Drive would have actually stood a chance at knocking down this BikeRush army. As it stands, that single rifleman squad kind of deserves deserves an award or a medal for distracting those rocket squads and buying time for the Hammerheads and the APCs to clean up those rockets and blast them down. Sonic emitters are now here on the front line, going to be adding a ton of DPS potentially to this army and actually just knocking down these defensive units one by one. Massive beacons land because this is huge damage on Drive's economy. This guy has been behind in economy most of these games, and it's looking like here he's actually doing okay on economy until he takes 3-4 Harvester losses from those Hammerheads. Juggernaut's APCs and Predator tanks going to be blasting down the front door of Drive as well, and Rex is out. Rex says, I can't do this anymore, and the victory seems to be short-lived as Space puts huge pressure on Rex, drives him out of the game, and it's now all coming down to Drive, who himself is already under enormous pressure from BikeRush owns. I think it's going to be the GG. I think it's going to be a pretty swift I love this. Maybe a minute ago this would have mattered. Not so much now. It looks like it is going to be a pretty swift game number 5. And, well, the score will continue to climb for Space and Bike. I thought it was going to be the start of a turnaround. Drive was going to be able to make, Drive and Rex were going to be able to make something happen. But it seems like the story is a repeat of the first couple of games. Massive 4-5 hand of nod man spam transition. This is an honor to all Black Hand players before. We used to talk about the man spam transition back in the years of 2013 or whatever, and we would see those double or sometimes even triple hand of nod man spam transitions. But the 5 hand of nod switch up, that is huge production. As you can see, Drive has actually driven his income into the ground. Huge amounts of rockets. He is going to be able to blast through these Hammerheads, but it's not going to be free. And behind all of this, of course, Space has a massive army closing in on Drive's main from the other direction. Juggernaut's landing massive shots and a triple engineer Marv because BikeRush knew I need to soak up damage. GG comes out. Drive has been defeated, and the score advances once more for Bike and Space. Unfortunately for Drive and Rex, that victory was indeed short-lived. And we are now on Ice Arena. So that's the name of the map, with the battleship in the middle. In the bottom right-hand corner, it's the red team. And there is a little bit of a switch-up. Rex still playing Scrin, but this time Drive is playing Traveler 59. He is going for the fast leg rush. But in the top left-hand corner, things are looking very much the same. Space and Bike returning to that double GDI powerhouse form. So if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I guess, but it also doesn't apply because Space won that last game as Black Hand, which, very small map, very direct line to your opponent. I get it. This map, much bigger, much more in line with most of the other maps in this series. So the double GDI return to form makes a lot of sense for Bike and Space. Looking to close this series out. A great set of games. Every game, pretty much, has had its merits, has had its value, even if the scoreboard is a bit lopsided. I mean, I guess Drive and Rex do still have a chance to make the comeback happen, but at this point, it is pretty unlikely to go for it from here. Buzzer's going to be coming in. Descents crossing the map. Maybe this will be lucky. I mean, they've seen it coming, so at this point, if Bike and Space lose much of anything to this, that would be pretty odd. Double Watchtower gets deployed. Going to be splitting up those descents. APC is here as well. And, well, that APC may get cleaned up, but the Rifleman does eject out nicely. And the mine drop. BikeRush owns almost never misses those mine drops. They don't always do anything, but he almost always gets one of them off with an APC, and he catches a couple of descents in that case. Unfortunately for Drive, his fast leg descents didn't do much of anything yet. I mean, it's a good upgrade to have, and descents can be... Oh, no, don't do it. Don't do it. Okay, he beaconed. BikeRush beaconed. He says, watch out for these rocks. Watch out for the rocks! Are you kidding me? He still gets it! The MCV down to half health. Those APCs are going to have to drive around to the long side of it, and now they will be able to target down those descents. Oh, what an almost catch for Drive. Phenomenal for Drive. Moments away from total desolation of space. Space would still have the war factory, he would still have the refineries, so it wouldn't be the end of the road. But that reset, forcing your opponent to drop the cash on that MCV rebuild, would have been a phenomenal early game boost to Drive and Rex. Rex going to be going for that nerve center pretty darn quickly. He is, of course, playing vanilla Scrin. So the combination between these two is pretty good. But wow, I did not actually realize Drive skipped his second refinery on his main field. The big spend at the beginning is, does lead to a delayed economy from Drive when you go for that Descent Rush opener, especially when you don't get any Harvester kills. But I did not expect it to be a split of refineries, one on each field. It doesn't really matter that much. No one is not, so you don't have to worry about close proximity refineries for any reason. And until you start really pumping out those harvesters, having the refineries close by doesn't get you much of all. Decent number of gunwalkers, but not really any seeker tanks are here, and this is a lot of watchtowers. So many watchtowers. There was a change in 1.02 Plus's history where watchtower, the gun damage, I should say, does now less damage against Scrin vehicles. Okay, he gets attenuated force fields. Descents do get pushed away on the north side, so this attack is going to come to nothing. Even though the force fields did get activated, it was, sort of over halfway after this battle had finished, and the descents are just getting slowly torn down. The descents and the gunwalkers are just getting slowly torn down. One harvester! Okay, we got one. We got him, boys. Wow, this is not going well for Drive and Rex. And an unfortunate way to start out this. Oh, that was sick. That was a sick blink. After the Orca rockets have already been fired, so you know that ammo is a little bit wasted. But that was great. Before they impact, after they fire, that was a great blink away by Drive. It does kind of reveal, hey, we've got this Prodigy or Mastermind out on the field. Actually don't know who blinked it away. It very well could have been Space, but I assume it was Drive. Cultists are out on the field. It couldn't have been Space. Could have been Rex. For whatever reason, Space and Rex, I keep swapping them in my mind, and I'm not sure why. Beacons do get deployed. Firehawks are here. Hammerhead just almost chops the camera in half as it spawns in there. And Orcas are here. They're going to be able to clean up this tripod. Well, I assume, unless they're out of rockets. But no, they do force the blink away of that tripod. And it was a Mastermind. Okay, so it looks like it was Rex. Orca's coming in. We will try and keep an eye on the Tier 3. Orca's going to be able to get out one Harvester, maybe two. And there is going to be Rex's Warp Chasm out on the field. I'm worried about these Firehawks. Okay, we only have 2 Firehawks, so not enough bombs just yet. Although I assume he's already upgraded Hardpoints and Stratofighter. So I assume they're already upgraded Firehawks. A lot of the times, players will get those upgrades as they're waiting for the Tier 3 to actually build in. I do appreciate that Drive and Rex keep trying to sneak armies through the edges. Okay, they do get beaconed. BikeRush Owns is like, hey man, do something with these units. I guess the question is he going to go north or south with those Firehawks? Are they going to try and go for this this one in the north, or for Drive in the south? Looks like they haven't moved out just yet. Oh, okay, as I say that, they do. I don't know where they went. They blinked off of the map, but Tier 3 seems to be available everywhere, so I'm not sure where those Firehawks are off to. Maybe they took out the Warp Chasm. Maybe they didn't, because it doesn't matter. Eradicator Hexapod is already out on the field, and they're going to be sniping a War Factory back at home, trying to kill that infrastructure as the slow field gets deployed, and this game is about to kick into high gear. We have had some saber rattling right at the beginning. We have had some dancing towards and around each other, but we are now into the late stages of aggression, and these guys are about to go crazy against each other. BikeRush owns in the south, Space in the north, Rex in the north, Drive in the south. Uh-oh. A little bit of trouble there as that Prodigy gets eliminated. Bye-bye. And actually he's going to try and jump in the wormhole to the other side of the map. That is cute. That was ill-advised as that Zone Trooper squad just gets dropped. We've seen a couple of times where the defender in a wormhole situation just uses it to their advantage, and they're like, oh, actually, I can just cross the map, and the person has deployed the wormhole in like a vulnerable spot for your opponent to just have uncontested units. But that was not one of those times. That Zone Trooper squad got dropped immediately, and that Shatter did as well, unless it managed to make it back through. War Factory gets sold off. It's going to be the blink of that Eradicator to dodge that shot, dodge away from all of that damage. Sonic Emitter, the Marv, everything that GDI team has in the north coming to no avail as that Mastermind blinks that Eradicator away. And we are now up to full epic unit status. Actually did not double check. Space, I guess, doesn't have his, this is actually BikeRush, does not have his Marv. Space has had his Marv for a little while, just no upgrades inside of it. And where did these two tripods come from? There's a blink forward as well, and a blink away immediately. That MCV is not going to be caught and killed by the Eradicator, but it will get sniped a little bit there by those tripods. A couple of shots do land, but the Orcas are going to be able to finish off these tripods. And, well, then never mind. They get blinked away. Really active and consistent teleportation from the double screen team in the south. This may not be the end of the line from them. If they keep up this efficiency game, they may be able to turn this game around. Despite the rough start that they have had, they may still be able to turn this into something. This is a lot of tripods on the front line. This army can be picked apart, especially if BikeRush actually gets up here, but that is an amazing stasis. The entire front line just went offline as BikeRush owns is going to be the only active participant in that battle until that stasis disappears. That's going to be the Shockwave Artillery getting massive shots. That RNG is so good. 4 tripods and an Eradicator with 1 volley. Are you kidding me? That guy is the king of RNG, and now the reinforcements have shown up. That stasis wears out, and it's going to be a phase to save this Eradicator if he goes any deeper. I guess he could teleport away, but he's going to need to save this Eradicator one way or the other. There's the phase. Fires off. MCV sold off, and this is how the GDI army gets turned around. The blink forward. It's a double Eradicator. It's a sandwich with the tripods. Are they doing this? Are you kidding me? Drive and Rex, they might actually turn this around. They might actually bring from the jaws of victory from the jaws of defeat, snatch victory away. And this last Marv may be trapped. The EMP doesn't land. The tripod falls to pieces, but the damage is still landing. Zone Troopers finally jumping inside of that Marv, but it might be too little too late as Drive and Rex have crushed forward, have brought down the hammer upon the double GDI team, and this is Skrin in its final form. The only thing we're missing as planetary assault carriers is overwhelming air power. But this is Mastermind's Tripods Eradicators in full force. A bad opening for Drive and Rex, and in 12 minutes or less, they crash through the front door and roll over Space and Bike. Wow, that was a turnaround. That was like a 9-minute full force crash through the front door. I am very surprised that that worked, but wow, oh wow, did they make that happen. And that's all I've got. Let's jump into the next game. What a match. And for me, Hurricane Lands is where the rubber meets the road, because a pattern has been forming. We've seen some similarities between a lot of these games. For example, BikeRush and Space, they've been keeping it with that double GDI in the north. Meanwhile, Rex and Drive have been switching things up, doing some slight variations. And in this case, we're actually back to the way things used to be. Drive is playing as the pink, but he's black hand, and Rex is back to Scrin. The wins have come from the Traveler 59 games. And now, Rex and Drive are giving up that card in potentially their last game in this series. And this is where it's like, can you actually dance? This is where it's proved. Can you actually dance? I don't think that's a phrase. Can you actually keep up with Bike and Space, their GDI play, when you're playing this black hand Scrin? Because it hasn't happened up till now. But maybe. It is Hurricane Lands. This is another one of those super popular 2v2 maps. Everyone, even Rex, I don't know what maps they play on the Chinese server for Kane's Wrath. It could be the same maps, but he has gotten a lot of experience on this map, I'm sure, in the last couple of months. It's a very common 2v2 map. Hurricane Lands, Forgotten Forest, that style, that whole family of maps, the Forgotten Forest family. And there's probably one other one that I'm forgetting. Are three super common, super well-liked, it seems, 2v2 maps. So we'll see exactly what Rex and Drive have planned. Nerve Center very quickly for Rex, kind of keeping similar... Wow, that's a lot of Harvesters. Kind of keeping in similar vein with most of his other games. Drive has gone for so many Harvesters immediately. Like, 5 Harvesters to Refinery, this is the normal ratio. But hitting it at, like, sub 230, that was crazy fast. And most of the time, we've seen Drive get 3-4 bikes, maybe a buggy as well, or maybe go for a flame tank rush. We haven't seen him dump all of his cash into really fast eco like this. We'll see if it pans out. It might very well be the wrong choice, but maybe the eco boom early is the better option. He's followed it up with a double War Factory, so there's no early game pressure. Drive cannot put any early game pressure on the other side of the map, but this mid-game pressure could be immense. It's going to be a command post and an airfield for Space, so he's delayed his natural expansion, he's delayed his second War Factory for this air power, which, to be fair, in the other games, did massive damage. That's not a dumb thing from Space. No shade against him for making that choice. Air power has been immense in the previous games. We'll see what BikeRush can bring to bear. BikeRush has gone third Refinery. He's going command post himself, which means that was not a War Factory queued up. And we'll see what they can do against this aggression. One Watchtower is not enough. You're going to need a little bit more than that to stop these bikes. And Drive doesn't commit in. He's wasting his time. Okay, maybe not if he snipes that command post. Maybe that's not wasting his time. But he has 2-3 undefended Harvesters, virtually undefended. And now BikeRush has had an opportunity to respond a little bit. Those bikes could have potentially sniped 2 Harvesters. Instead, they went for the command post, and we'll see if that was the right choice. Resetting the tech may be the better option. That keeps BikeRush. It denies that tech switch that BikeRush was attempting to go for. Oh, I love that move from Space. Look at that. What a way to shut down the frontline aggression from Rex. Cleans up one of the Corruptors as well. Obviously, Corruptors have the ability to heal pretty much all other Scrin units, I guess including themselves, and it can be a little bit problematic to kill them off, but he still gets one of them regardless, and of course the other one can just heal up quite nicely. Random Rocket Squad from BikeRush kind of getting caught in that field, but it's going to be Bikes and Scorpions pushing the front line forward. BikeRush faltering a little bit against this aggression of Drive. That fast 5 Harvesters into the double War Factory has given some opportunity, some space for Drive and Rex. They've gotten some damage done, They've gotten to enter the mid-game under their terms, but now things are slowing down. Their aggression isn't landing, at least not forever. And here's the switch up. One Harvester down for sure. Easy kill there for these Storm Riders. 2 Harvesters down, and this AA battery is nice, but it's too little, too late. That's 2 Harvesters and a Pred for almost nothing. Trades out a Storm Rider every day. You take that trade. 2 Harvesters on the natural like that? What a cozy kill. And now he's going to transition over. If he gets these Orcas, that's even more cash in the bank. Firehawk is going to have to trade out, but the Firehawk goes down, and the Storm Riders still maintain their position in the air. Oh, Space's economy is about to be launched into orbit and sent into the sun. Another Harvester down, full of Tiberium. The Firehawk comes in, but this is absolutely devastating damage to Space. And those Orcas are going to be sent back, but there is not going to be a home much longer for them to go back to. Firehawk comes in, another Storm Rider goes down. Go ahead, kill off the Storm Riders. These guys have already paid for themselves. It feels like 10 times over with all the damage they have done, the disruption they have caused. That was a perfect tech switch. That was one of the best executed Storm Rider transitions I have seen in a long time. Sometimes we see players get ahead and then like BikeRush owns will go like 4 gravity stabilizer Storm Riders. And it's like he just sweeps into the base and it's just the end of the road. Look at that, the tech and the MCV both on pause. Good night to that entire production queue. The stasis comes in. Rex is on fire right now, ladies and gentlemen, rising from the ashes of some embarrassing games earlier, but he is crushing it here. He's against a double GDI team. That's a sell-off on the front line from Space. He's as close to being dead as you can be while still in this game. Rex is executing on a whole nother level. We have not seen him on this level in this series, but he's there now. What a move from Rex. This kid is now just in the full lead of this game. No one is ahead of Rex in this game. Not BikeRush, not Space, not Drive. Rex is the top performer in this match, which has not been true for most of the rest of this series. And it doesn't mean he'll win the game. It just means in this moment, he is basically batting 1,000. BikeRush owns has a lot of power left in him. Space technically does still have some strength left. Double airfield can do massive damage. Orcas in the right spot can be critical killers. But one airfield is about to expire. That Orca number is about to go down. And bye-bye to your ability to quickly refuel half of your Orcas. Massive infantry swell from Drive. And the Flame Tank, right when BikeRush turns away, the GG comes out, and that's going to be a game for Rex and Drive. Huge win on Hurricane Lands. Space and Bike. Double GDI, and they just got decapitated by Rex and Drive. What a phenomenal match from those two. That was like near perfect execution of that build. And if that was game one, it would look like Bike and Space are just not even contenders. But this feels like a switch up. It feels like finally Rex and Drive woke up. They were like, oh, I guess we should start playing good. And they do. And Game 8 will take us to Downtown Dust Bowl, one of the original maps that ships with the game. That is a 4-player map that people actually still play on. Not a lot of the original maps that shipped with the game are still in the rotation. Now, if it ain't broke, don't fix it is a great motto, but it's not one that the red team believes in. Drive and Rex have switched it up in the north, plain as the pink. This is Rex. He is GDI. And his buddy playing as the Steel Talons. Yeah, baby, we're seeing it. This is Drive. All right, on the other side of the map, the differences continue on the other team because playing as the blue, playing as the black hand, this is BikeRush owns. And believing that if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Playing as the light blue GDI, this is Space. All right, so it's not a complete switch up, but BikeRush owns, obviously a phenomenal black hand player. He's not played black hand at all in this series, so this is a huge switch up within the context of the series. Drive, similarly, is a great GDI player, but he's never played. We're actually looking at Rex's base, but Drive, you know, he's great with GDI, but he's switched up to Steel Talons. And I have to assume this is map specific. Ooh, nice. Airfield Rush gets spotted, and he also tags the MCV with a little bit of damage. It's not going to be killing the MCV or game-ending damage, but he does tag the MCV with a nice 10-20% damage. A little bit of chip off of that old MCV armor, and it is going to be not the fastest ops center you can get, but a very reasonable operations center, very reasonable flame tank rush coming out here from BikeRush owns, and will Drive spot it. Now, Titans, okay, that's not a Titan, that's a 5th Harvester. Titans can kill the flame tank so incredibly quickly, especially if they get up close and personal, but it's not, it's beam cannons. Okay, so I thought I had BikeRush pegged. You know, look at me, I'm so smart. I know it's a flame tank rush and it's beam cannons right there. Orcas come in, they clear out those pit bulls, and the beam cannons are going to start amassing because at the same time, Rex is bringing the front line to his enemy. What in the world is going on? Rex says, you're scouting my base, you know the plan. Well, how about if I send a bunch of pit bulls into your face and I just start shooting all of your harvesters? One Predator tank steps on out, but this is an Orca rush build. You don't have much of a ground army, especially when you go for the harvester numbers right off the bat. The damage splitting has been perfect by Space. He has juked and jived with those harvesters, pulled them around buildings, traded them off, but it doesn't matter because the damage is starting to add up. Meanwhile, on the left side of the map, the beam cannon attacks are just getting ready to start. It's going to be a double airfield transition. You play Steel Talons and you say, you know what I want? I want aircraft as Steel Talons, and apparently it is going to work. Flame Tank will be getting targeted down, but this refinery is going to take a lot of damage first, and the beam cannons will be able to finish it off even if the Flame Tank goes down. Meanwhile, back on the front line on the right side, that MCV has been sold off or destroyed. Space is in dire straits. He is in a terrible spot, and he is up against a Rex who has a solid economy behind him. Not much of a game plan after this, but you better hope one thing works for Rex, because if it doesn't, he's got not much more to fall back on it, but he does have more than Space, and that is what counts, because in this game of a 1v1 and a 1v1, Rex is crushing it. One harvester remains for Space. He's got $6 in the bank and not much more than that to ever go on. I hope you like your $6, because the most you're going to get other than that is selling off that refinery to get out one more Predator tank. And now it's a Hammerhead switch up. It's going to be a 1v2 in moments time. BikeRush owns has fallen flat against Drive, but he killed almost everything in Drive's main. One MCV escapes from one flame tank, and that's the story of the left side of the map, because the right side of the map is now under BikeRush's control as Space leaves the game and says, it's up to you, buddy. The last time this happened, it was Rex who was in the position of almost dead on the red team. In this case, it's Drive. He has still got that MCV. He has got, I don't actually think, there's no tib spikes on this map to be captured, so Drive is kind of dead. Okay, so now we're in a 1v1 situation where it's essentially Rex versus BikeRush owns, which, to be fair, I have never actually seen Rex beat BikeRush owns, but I have seen some games where Rex got very close to beating BikeRush owns, where he definitely could have taken the game off of BikeRush owns. So in a 1v1 scenario, I do believe in Rex. I do believe that he can do it. But Drive, not so much. I'm not sure what the plan is. If he gets a barracks and an engineer, he could potentially cap some buildings. Flame Tank comes in. Flame Tank gets pushed back out. Mantis goes down, and the rockets will get cleaned up. That engineer might be from an MCV cell. It is indeed. BikeRush has put all of his chips into the middle of the table, and it did not pan out. So now he's got to play this awkward hand from behind, and 2 sets of eyes are better than 1. That's a fully heroic rifleman squad inside of a heavy harvester shooting a flame tank, which is not something you see every day. Mantis trying to chase down those hammerheads, might get a kill before the Mantis finally goes down. It doesn't have much health left, but it's also only really being chased by riflemen inside of hammerheads, so not much more to that. BikeRush has kind of put everything into this one last play, and so far his flame tanks haven't found much damage. So this 1v2 that really is a 1v1 is turning against BikeRush. He could still pull this thing out. He still has harvesters. He still has a war factory, and that is not an MCV popping on out. But the number of harvesters that he has is diminishing by the minute. In fact, it's 0 because Drive and Rex put a GDI Steel Talons win on the board. What a turn for these two. Drive and Rex, Team Red, dealing some bad games in the beginning, but suddenly their luck has changed. They have woken up, and they are executing at a very high level. And that'll do it for Game 8. We are nearly at even scores between the two teams. And that sends us to the map Arid Remains, which is one of those 2v2 maps that we just don't see very often, but when you're in a long series like this, it kind of happens this way. So returning to form a little bit here, the red team once again features as, well, this time actually, as the Steel Talons, the red Rex. So Rex and Drive switching up the colors on us, but as the Black Hand playing pink, this is Drive. So he is kind of returning to form in that way, and this is going to be a Confessor Cabal rush or a Purifying Flame rush? I don't know. As the Cyan playing GDI, it's Space. And this is actually looking very similar to that last game, because rounding us out, once again choosing Black Hand, it's BikeRush. All right, these guys are a little bit the same, a little bit different, but it's going to be fast Confessors. I assume it's Confessors for both of these teams. And indeed it is, followed by the sell-off of that Secret Shrine. And BikeRush is doing the exact same thing. It looks like the order of operations was slightly different. I'm going to guess BikeRush went Refinery before Secret Shrine, and I'm going to guess Drive went Shrine before Refinery. But either way, we're seeing some early Confessors get added into the mix for everyone. There's the sell-off by Bike. Okay, so mirror, pretty darn close to the mirror. You know, after the 1.5 minute mark, it basically is a mirror between the two Black Hand players. Double tip spike taken by Drive in the early part of the game, but it looks like, well, Drive and Rex actually both got the double tip spikes, but it looks like that is going to be turned against them. We'll see how Rex does with the Steel Talons. This feels so interesting that Drive played Steel Talons in the last one, and now Rex is playing Steel Talons in this one. That is perfect parity with these two anti-infantry defenses. Right as BikeRush's forces show up to that base, bam, bam, it's a double drop of anti-infantry, and it just has a huge amount of killing potential just, you know, essentially coming out of nowhere in the face of those rockets. This map is a little bit of a weird one. You do start with this field, and then you kind of have a backdoor natural between you and your ally. Or I guess if the spawns worked out differently, then this would be like... I don't even know if the spawns were the other way. If this was a team and if that was a team, I actually don't know how the expansions would even work. That would be such an awkward expansion. You'd essentially just have to kind of force the situation that we already have. Drive going to be killing both of Space's Tib Spikes, and BikeRush took these Tib Spikes back, but it looks like Drive might be taking care of those Random Harvester out on the field getting tagged by Wolverines from Rex. And for Rex's sake, we have to hope that that AP ammo is finishing up soon. Indeed it is. But there already are a good number of rocket squads in his base, a good number of Confessor Cabals here, and that's going to be low power mode as well. Upgraded power plant finishes just in time, but it's going to be a close target to kill after that MCV goes down. This is a lot of flame weapons. Drive, absolutely a hero here, defending his friend. Is he going to save this MCV? Barely. It will fall. Those watchtowers, if they would have had that AP ammo upgrade a few moments sooner, they would have been able to hold off that attack. But it was not meant to be. Orca's going to be finding a little bit of damage here, not finding a Harvester kill, but no, they do get the kill. That might have actually been the second Harvester, depending on how many Orcas actually started out, were originating in that fight. If he had 2 or 3, he may have actually killed more than just that one Harvester that we saw on screen there. I do appreciate that BikeRush owns is taking these defensive towers. This is one of those maps that actually has 6 defensive towers, which is, you know, normally you might see 2 defensive towers on a map, and a 2v2 map. This one has 6 defensive towers in total. Definitely a little bit of a weird decision there, but I appreciate things being a little bit different sometimes. Hammerhead comes in, slaughters. Oh, this is a Hammerhead with a Rifleman inside, so they've all got that AP ammo upgrade, and that just means that these rockets, as they come out one at a time, are just getting annihilated. And this defensive tower was a great choice, apparently, because it's going to buy a little bit of time for Rex, and it is also going to kill off a couple of those rocket squads. BikeRush owns trying to encroach in on Drive, but Drive says, hey, we're both Black Hand. We both have these very powerful infantry forces, and every single rocket squad that comes out just gets instantly annihilated by this Hammerhead, which is kind of single-handedly camping BikeRush's base. BikeRush owns has just spent himself into a corner and now is on like the last dregs of this game. And Rex and Drive are just like, okay, we defend for a minute and then we win the game, but BikeRush owns is basically out of it. He's now lost his barracks. He has this little bit of an infantry army, and that is pretty much it. This game is not over, but it is as close to over as you can get while there's still all 4 players remaining in this game. MCV back online for Rex, a little bit further away from the front line. You know, he's I guess, respecting the power and the potential of BikeRush in space, or we should say just space. This is the switcheroo. So this is where, in a 2v2, either player could potentially leave the game and hand things off to the other player. If you're in a very straightforward match, then BikeRush owns is the player who should have left. He's the one who's actually dead. Space is the one who has some life left in him. But Space makes a tactical retreat, a strategic decision to hand things over to BikeRush, and he says, hey, I think you have an opportunity to actually win this game from a 1v2 situation. I'm going to give you the keys to my GDI kingdom, and you just, you know, you take this corner expansion and go to town, and you 1v2 them from this point forward. So I guess if BikeRush wins this, we are in for a bit of a long match, and this is going to be an insane game. This might be best game of the year. If BikeRush wins this, I guess I'm kind of approaching this from the wrong angle, but this is like such an awkward spot to have Space hand over the keys to the kingdom, and we'll see. Maybe it'll work out. Maybe it won't. Obviously, Drive and Rex, it's sort of their game to lose, and you know, it feels like Space should be the one playing this one out, not BikeRush owns. But it is a strategic move for sure. That laser fence was perfect. I don't think that was a bait. I think he just did that to save the War Factory, but if that was a bait, that was genius to bait those Firehawks into essentially wasting a volley of bombs. And, well, the Marv is now out. And BikeRush owns, he has a real chance to take this game. He's going to be able to take this corner expansion, and if he is able to support this Marv, it actually doesn't have anything inside of it. You might need to go 4 engineers in this Marv. You might need to go 2 engineers, 2 zones, but you need some combination of something. Ooh, Mantis gets a full volley off. Doesn't clean up a single Hammerhead, though. No upgrades for this Mantis. I don't know how close we are to Tib core missiles, but we're not there just yet. Double Mantis is here, tons of rockets as well. And don't get me wrong, this is going to be a very difficult game for BikeRush owns. Oh, Firehawks. Oh, no. That was a huge mistake. BikeRush owns drops almost a refinery, but doesn't actually get the kill. And then the Firehawks don't even make it back home. So those Firehawks just eliminated. And now this rocket squad, or these squads in the corner, get cleaned up by the Wolverines. Marv cleans up the middle of the map for BikeRush owns. So he does harvest a good amount. But he doesn't have much in the bank. He also doesn't have a ton of harvesters working. Is that really only... Oh, no. He has 4 more harvesters over here. So he has a decent amount of harvesters. They're just kind of spread out in some unusual positions. And that Marv is suddenly like, ooh, I'm a little bit too close to enemy lines. I'm a little bit too close to the wrong area of the map. And this is going to be a double engineer? Is there a zone trooper squad I don't see somewhere? Nope. It is going to be maybe triple engineer in one zone trooper. Hammerhead's going to be getting caught by these slingshots. They do trade out against the slings, take down at least one of the slingshots before all of the rest of his Hammerheads go down. And this is where BikeRush owns has only one set of hands, one keyboard, and one mouse. He is a phenomenal player, but he cannot be in 2 places at once. As quick as he is, you know, as much as he is able to switch from one location to another and micro on 2 fronts at once, he still loses Hammerheads and gets them caught by slingshots. Drive encroaching on the base of BikeRush owns. BikeRush owns has kind of sewn himself up quite nicely. The sonic emitter and the watch tower on one side, and then a nice little spread of units. Unfortunately, not a lot of grenadiers to try and clear out these buildings, so this could be a bit of a stronghold problem for Drive, or for BikeRush owns to deal with. Drive has a bit of a stronghold right in the middle of the map with these 6 rocket squads inside of these buildings, just doing nice chip damage to that Marv. The expansion never really got up and running for BikeRush in the way that he wanted. And when you're playing from the back foot, you really need some kind of edge that lets you, you know, get the win over the 2 other players. Otherwise, they just control more Tiberium fields. They may just be able to outlast BikeRush owns in the long game. They might just be able to out-attrition him with sheer bodies, but maybe not. BikeRush owns pushes on forward, and this base hasn't actually been broken. Rex was never able to actually get over here and clear out that base. So BikeRush owns is going to push on forward. And now suddenly, Rex, who doesn't have much of a ground army apparently, and Drive, who is having his main base set upon, I can't believe they weren't actually able to kill off that Marv either. This is actually just perfect for BikeRush owns. He's getting so much time to build up back home and to reset himself from where he would like to be behind this attack. Predator tank takes some damage, but ultimately no kills there. Drive down to only $4 in the bank, so Drive actually can't produce really anything at all. His economy getting stunted, and suddenly BikeRush owns. He has a minute or 2 to build up this economy back at home. He has that double field that he can work off of. Okay, he hasn't totally transferred his harvesters. As Marv kind of got split up. APCs go down. Rex is feeling like he's starting to come alive. Drive, I think, might actually be out of this. We might be in another 1v1 situation. Okay, Drive actually has a decent amount of income. 4 harvesters, 3 of them full of Tiberium, but just not a lot of anything else. And actually, Drive may not actually have any production now that his MCV is down. So Drive should probably tap out. I mean, 1 barracks, you're not going to necessarily spend all of your money. He is right now. BikeRush owns. He's got an opportunity to let this one play. I'm really surprised he doesn't have more harvesters on these fields. Could sell off one of these. Does he? I feel like he had more harvesters than that. Okay, he's transferring them now. Yeah, he had at least 3 harvesters over here, kind of doing nothing, not harvesting very much. And those could have been on that bigger field, bringing in almost doubling his income. And if he sold off this refinery and brought his other harvesters over here, that would definitely help his income out. He had some momentum and it sort of disappeared. Fortunately for him, that momentum essentially killed Drive. So unless I'm missing something, which Drive may have a crane somewhere. Maybe I missed a crane that Drive deployed somewhere or other. Double Hand of Nod. You can pump out a lot of infantry with a double Hand of Nod. Yeah, I do feel like I'm missing Drive somewhere on the map, but I must be not catching something. It looks like he just has, you know, power plants, a refinery, and a couple of Hands of Nod. Mantis comes through, scouts the main base of BikeRush. Bike doesn't have 2 Firehawks. I was like, oh my gosh, he got back up to Firehawks, but no, he doesn't. Shockwave Artillery fires off. This might be his opportunity to really catch a lot of this army all at once. We'll see if he's actually able to make this happen. He's going to be crashing into these behemoths. That was not the best lineup between Shockwave Artillery and his army crashing in. Mammoth Tanks on the front line to absorb a lot of this damage, and BikeRush's army is kind of getting split up by the terrain, by all of the buildings on this map. His Marv has now taken massive damage. Those Predator tanks are not cleaning up the opponent fast enough. He can't deal with the infantry army quick enough. He just doesn't have the shots per second, and now that the Marv is gone, so are BikeRush's chances to win this game. The GG gets called, and that is the tap out from BikeRush owns. Drive and Rex so close to cleaning up this series. And for the first time in this series, the scoreboard has officially swapped. Red team is now in the lead, spawning here on the map, Blue Zone Rampage. Which, looking at this map, I'm not sure that the author of this map knows what a blue zone is within the canon of the Tiberium universe, but, you know, it is less downtrodden. You know, the trees are alive at least. Not much more of this really looks like a blue zone. But in the north, we are kicking it off with another new combination of factions because playing as just the vanilla GDI, this is Rex. And meanwhile, playing red, playing Black Hand, this is Drive. So I guess Drive is the same because he's playing Black Hand. Meanwhile, in the south, sticking with that good old faithful GDI, it's Space. And playing as the dark blue, playing as the Nod, it's BikeRush owns. All right, so things have turned out a little bit strange. A 3-0 start for Team Blue, and now it's turned around into a 5-4 for Team Red. And given that I think when the start of this comeback happened, it was 4-1, and now Drive and Rex have basically won 4 games in a row. A weird variety of games as well. Like that last one, BikeRush owns just getting gutted at one point, and then almost being able to come back for a 1v2 win, but ultimately falling flat in that sense. And now we're on to Red Zone Rampage, which obviously this is a little bit of a tile set shift, a little bit of a reskin of Red Zone Rampage, and we now have Blue Zone Rampage, which is just like less cloudy. But it's the same layout, and I mean, Desert Rampage was a win for Space and BikeRush owns, but in that case, Space was actually the Black Hand player, and BikeRush was the vanilla GDI player. So we'll see, because BikeRush owns obviously has a lot of Nod builds that he could bust out, and honestly, I'm surprised no one has fast-teched to 1-clicks. That is the one build we kind of haven't seen. We've seen a bunch of other things. I guess we haven't seen a lot of all-ins. There haven't been any like crazy all-in plays right from the beginning. We have had some very aggressive games, but no complete all-ins. And we haven't had a fast tech. Here we go. This is an opportunity. Oh, it's a multi-MCV. Let's go. The obelisks are on their way, and we might get some 1-clicks behind it as well. This is good old faithful. And BikeRush owns in Space, I mean, their backs are against the wall with this one. And they gotta make it happen. Okay, there we go. We're now guaranteed. There's the scouting buggy cutting through the middle of the map between these bases. He is looking for the best spot, potentially. I don't know that he's going to get something better. Right? He could go for the blue field location. but at any rate, I chose wrong. I chose poorly. Where was it? Oh, there we go. Finally, I got it. Stealth tank comes through. Bye-bye to one harvester. Second harvester almost gets splashed down just by merits of the path that the game assigned it. Almost drives into those last couple of rockets and deals its own death. Whoa, there's a lot of Predator tanks, and the obelisks aren't ready yet. There's one on the front lines. There's the second one, and that's going to be the sonic emitter from space to save BikeRush owns in this case. One MCV down would be a nice kick to the knees to slow down this attack, but of course it won't stop BikeRush at all. It won't completely stop him, I should say. And now BikeRush owns builds himself a wall out of buildings. You want to build Tiberium silos, General? Yes, right on the front line, in front of those tanks. Okay, whatever you say. But in this case, it is the correct tactical move to block that MCV from being eliminated. And honestly, I'm kind of surprised he hasn't. Okay, there's actually the engineer. Never mind. I'm not surprised at all because there's the engineer. He builds that, and the engineer comes online, goes to the front line where he is going to be able to jump inside of that MCV and heal it back up to full. There we go. BikeRush owns resets his front line. Somebody, I think, just received a lovely catalyst missile. Here it was. BikeRush owns got catalyst after he catalysted someone else. And Drive is ready. Look at this from Drive, dropping double silos on the front line. He's like, I know what's coming. This map isn't played for a reason, and it's because the games look very similar. They tend to not have a lot of options, and it's like it's just so much money all at the beginning that the games kind of just become big messes. Another group of Predator tanks cutting through the front line and trying to go for the backstab. I'm not sure it's going to work out too well for Rex in either case. He had some great matches in some previous games with GDI. This is not feeling like one of them with these random Predator tank attacks, and now he actually has a legitimate problem to worry about on the front line. His Juggernaut's almost getting sniped as they get constructed by these obelisks. Fortunately, he does still have some Juggernauts coming online. Meanwhile, Space is going to be pushing his front line forward against Drive on the right side of the map. We are going to be transitioning into pretty much a 1v1 situation, and fortunately, for Rex, he has sniped that, and actually it might be these beam cannons more than the Juggernauts that have sniped that MCV, so maybe it was Drive's teammanship, his team play, that actually saved Rex in this case, and suddenly it feels like the front line is falling apart. This Marv has stepped too far forward, but that shockwave artillery will save that Marv, but maybe not, as these rockets turn their guns on it. Those pit bulls from Rex explode as the Marv stretches its legs, walks into the enemy base, and does manage to escape. I almost can't believe that Marv got that deep on enemy territory, that low on health, with that little support, and still lived to tell the tale. Vertigo's coming in from BikeRush, and I love anytime a Nod player builds Vertigos. For a time, Vertigos were like criminally underbuilt, underutilized by everyone. For the number of Nod games that there were, it was a lot of like bike buggy all in, bike buggy or mass scorpion tank into man spam, and like there was no finesse to any of the Nod plays. And you know, in the last couple of years, that has definitely changed. Part of it is the 1.02 plus balance patch, and part of it is just people trying new things and like, all right, I'm kind of hitting a stone wall, and then they suddenly introduce Vertigos into the mix, and they're like, oh, that's the artillery answer that I needed. So I love anytime we do get to see Vertigos. But BikeRush owns, I thought this was about to become a 1v2 on the right side, where BikeRush owns and Space join forces on the right side to try and drive out. But no, BikeRush owns is trying to keep all fronts active. He's trying to keep a little bit of map presence and map awareness everywhere as his Vertigos go on stealth bombing missions to eliminate harvesters, and he apparently keeps the avatars on the front line as well, just, you know, always that present threat. The Redeemer, though, will be on the right side of the map. A little bit of scout as the decoy army deploys in. A little bit of show me what you got. The fields have pretty much been, the safe fields have pretty much all been harvested And now is this game... is he going to snipe that Harvester? The answer is no. Okay, he goes for the Spectres. Trades out 1, 2 Vertigos. No, that Vertigo survives. Are you kidding me? What a kingpin, that Vertigo. Gets the kill on the Spectre and doesn't actually die. That MCB got deleted as Drive thought he had an opportunity. He did not realize how many Juggernauts Space had on the front line, ready and waiting, ready to go, and able to just jump forward. Marv comes in, and BikeRush Owns is going to be putting a little bit of pressure on Rex. Let's see if he can actually keep up. Triple Ingy inside of the Marv. I feel like this is a more common thing here in this show match than I have ever seen it before. EMPs right onto the front line. It is a combination defense, but this Marv takes massive damage from those Vertigos under the watchful eye. Oh, that shockwave artillery, that supersonic airstrike almost cleans up the Vertigos, but ultimately doesn't do anything. So that was just cash down the drain. If only Rex would have known beforehand how truly useless that support power was in that situation. He never would have wasted the cash on it. Rex's front line has suddenly collapsed. He's out of Tiberium back at home. Drive and Rex, they've got 14, not even between them, 1,400 credits, and they have 0 control of the Tiberium fields. The remaining Tiberium is almost entirely under the control of BikeRush Owns in Space, and Rex, who has a Marv, who in theory has that big, heavy harvester who can get those harvesting runs done, is back at home, just waiting for it to heal up. Shockwave artillery going to land. It's from Space to Drive. Drive doesn't even have much of a force on the front line, and now he's going to be losing 2 Purifiers to a giant volley of Juggernauts. Rex and Drive are starting to feel the pressure. Get your Harvesters back online, but honestly, I don't know what Drive is even supposed to do with them. And on top of that, his field that is close to him is now getting just hoovered up by this Marv. Space and BikeRush faltering in the first part of this game, but controlling the economy so much in the second part of that. I mean, look at the income graph between these two. A combination of like 30 grand more in the blue team than in the red team. They are in the south, but they have got the purse, they have got the wallet to back this up, and this is still such an unbeatable Juggernaut army from Space. Drive and Rex so close to victory, so close to winning the series, but it's not going to be that easy. They are not going down without a fight. Drive has been defeated. Space and BikeRush will send us to the ace match, and not the way I expected. Man, oh man, I did not think Drive and Rex were going to be the ones up at 5 points first, and Bike and Space would have to quote-unquote come back to send us to the ace match. We are hitting the maximum number of games. Ladies and gentlemen, match number 11 is coming up. In times of desperation, you often find out what people really believe, what truly motivates them. And in this case, we're going to find out that BikeRush and Space believe in GDI. That's right, we've got a color swap that I just did a 10-second check to see if I could fix, and unfortunately I can't. So in this last game, kicking it off as the red GDI, this is BikeRush Owns, which is actually correct for the color that he normally plays in most matches. And playing as the pink, this is Space. It's the double GDI team. Meanwhile, on the south side of the map, also showing us what they believe, because returning to Blackhand, this is Drive. He's blue, and that means that returning to Scrin as the cyan, this is Rex. I've gotten so used to the red versus blue combination, and yet we are still keeping the exact same 4 colors, but the players that they represent are a complete switch on us, which, you know, it's a kind of annoying, but it's better than just random colors every single game. This would have been green and purple versus red and cyan, so I do like this better overall, but it does mean that we go back to the same story that was told in those first couple games. Driving Rex, Black Hand, Scrin, L, L, L. Switch it up, get a W. But BikeRush in space, GDI, GDI, WWW, lots of wins. They're like surfing on the World Wide Web. They got so many wins under their belt with this double GDI play. It might as well be double points GDI with how many wins they got. And one win as like Black Hand, whatever that last game was, and then whatever the tournament desert game was. But the map is Tiberium Pantanus. And it is the last game of this series. A best of 11 that has gone the distance. A 2v2 that is absolutely delivered on every level. We have seen really aggressive games. We have seen some bigger macro games. Okay, we haven't seen a no-rush 10-minute style of game where they really just eco-boom, all 4 players eco-boom. But realistically, I don't know that I've ever seen top-level players do that in a competitive match. That sort of thing doesn't really happen at this level, so I guess that is the one thing we're missing. But that's also a game that I've just would never ever happen in a 2v2 competitive match between high-level players. Once again, huge thanks to Shanks. Oh, unfortunate choice there for Rex. Commits a Harvester into the blue Tiberium in the middle of the map and gets punished for it pretty hard. Loses the Harvester. No way to get that boy back home. And on top of that, insult to injury. It looks like BikeRush is going to be taking a load of blue Tiberium for himself. So this is what happens when you try and blind take the blue. It doesn't necessarily work out. Big, huge thanks to Shanks for putting up the money for this show match, for making it happen. This has been a phenomenal set of games. Big, huge thanks to Drive for making the thumbnail for this video. Big, huge thanks to Double Evil and Lily for their work on the overlay. And most of that does go to Double Evil. Lily did help out with some of the Kane's Wrath specific stuff, but the overwhelming majority of the work was done by Double Evil, so huge cheers to him. He's the reason why we have the unit counters and the money indicators and all of that. And of course, big thanks to you guys for watching. I'm curious to see how this video will perform. I have been super busy at work and have not had time to make or release any videos, which is why there's been like, 10 videos in the last 3 months that have actually come out on the channel. But hopefully this series will help make up for it, because this has been a phenomenal set of games. And ooh, what was that? I don't know what just happened. I think that was a double misclick by Space, and very possibly his bank account just drained by not a huge amount. How much? $200, so times like 4 or 5. So he just lost like 1,000 credits possibly. I'm not exactly sure what that was, but that appeared to be an accidental Control A to, or I guess Control something, Control D or something, to call for transport on all of those units. And then, oopsie daisy, you lose a bunch of them. Decoy Army working out really nicely because of the relatively low rate of fire of Pit Bulls, letting this Harvester survive. That was a sick move from Drive. He does lose every single bike, so that was not a sick move. He goes into the flame tanks, and as a result, he is vulnerable to these Pit Bulls, and now Space is just getting some free damage with these Pit Bulls. He won't get the kill on the flame tank, not at least right this moment, but he does at least know that that flame tank is there. He's got the hammerheads moving in to intercept, and there goes the operations center. Suddenly, this game is kicked into high gear for Drive and Rex on the defensive front, and on the offensive front for Bike and Space, because Space is going to be chased away by photon cannons or by plasma missile batteries, but that is what is going to save Drive. Otherwise, Drive would be very close to dead from those hammerheads. Getting that operations center sniped like that, and then those power plants exposed as well. Oh boy, Drive almost lost the entire game. Everything in this series builds, and then Space just comes in and snipes away all hope, all chance, all opportunity. And it looks like some Firehawks may have bombed a Tier 3 out of existence. Drive almost just falling flat on his face and losing the series for his team in that one moment there. Orca Strike comes in. Purifying Flame is done. Drive has got himself a pretty sick flame tank set up now, but he is also going to be losing. Okay, no, perfect sell-off. Good for him. This is going to cost BikeRush at least one Firehawk. I kind of thought it was going to be 2 or maybe 3 Firehawks, but no. It's literally just one Firehawk. A couple of other Firehawks very low on health. If only there was some cheat code where you could just tell all of your anti-air units to target better, and then they would have actually killed 2 of the Firehawks instead of just 1. But there is no way to really do that. I guess if you had a billion APM, you could like select each anti-air unit and manually tell it what to attack. But this is a great rifle squad there for Space. He gets perfect knowledge of this attack incoming. His Marv is also out on the field. Double Zone Trooper inside of there. I assume double Engineer on the way now as well. Firehawks coming back in, but this time they are returning from a fresh bombing run, trying to slow down that warp chasm, trying to stop Rex from ever getting up his power. That worked so well in the early part of this series. Denying Rex's Eradicator was a game-winning move time and time again. Space going to be losing 1 Harvester, or maybe BikeRush lost 1 Harvester there. Someone lost a Harvester, and Firehawks coming in for a bombing run. You know you're in bad situation if Firehawks are your bombing run against units. These boys are not Vertigo. They do not do that kind of damage. And Space once again going to be catching one of these flame tanks of Drive, knocking it down before it can do too much damage. But those Purifying Flame tanks do so much damage to buildings so incredibly quickly. Finally, we may get ourselves an epic unit out onto the field for Rex. He has had his Eradicator denied so many times, and maybe eventually he'll be able to get it out onto the field. Gunwalkers getting a kill on 3 different Hammerheads. That was a good catch. A bit of a mistake there by the Hammerhead player. I think that might have actually been Space. And once again, Drive! How does he keep doing this? He sneaks these flame tanks through enemy territory, and nobody sees them, and then they just sit there. Like, they're obviously set to hold fire stance, but they're just sitting there, and this is potentially a critical... Okay, never mind. Never mind. There are several things that were very close to critical... that one maybe wouldn't be game-ending, but over time, that would have been game-ending for Space. If he just had 4 Harvesters doing absolutely nothing, depending on what percentage of his economy that represents. But... oh, unfortunately for Drive, loses a Harvester. Auto-harvest sometimes does you dirty in that way. But all of the easy Tiberium is now being gobbled up. And BikeRush owns in Space. They actually have control of the 2 fields that matter most at this stage of the game. The bottom right and the top left are both confidently under the control of BikeRush and Space. Redeemer finally out on the map. It feels like 5 minutes after the GDI players got their epic units, finally the other players are getting their epics as well. And the Eradicator still isn't even out, although I think it is more than halfway done, which is perhaps the farthest along that it has been. I'm actually kind of surprised we don't have an engineer just camped out right next to this building, ready to enter at a moment's notice. Another flame tank. Ooh, this Mantis. It does fire. Tib-Core Missile does earn a kill, and he's going to back off of the front line. He could probably torch this. Okay, maybe not with the Sonic Emitter. There, even with the Sonic Emitter! He almost burns down the Sonic Emitter. Purified Flame is so good. People still don't get it, but it is so good. I cannot believe how much damage, how quickly that damage is dealt. Just absolutely insane DPS from this boy. Burns up a Rifleman squad, kind of wasting precious time there, but the Hammerheads don't dive for the kill, so the refinery will go down anyways, or very nearly. Yes, it goes down. Tier 3 is almost under threat. It's going to be sold off. You don't even have to kill it if they sell it off. He gets the cash back, and the flame tank does go down. That was almost the end of the road for the GDI team. So many swings back and forth, but they still have a critical piece that no one can ever take away from them, and that is a wall of Juggernauts. It's not that it can't be killed. It's just that your chances of killing it sort of decrease the longer it exists. Is this a... Boys? Is this a base trade? Are they full on just saying, let's swap? It really looks like it. I've never seen a full evacuation like this. You leave the buildings so that the Juggernauts have to waste their time as you cross the map. This is a full base trade. Like, just YOLO to the other side of the map. We'll drop a base in the corner, take what half of that field is left over, and it's not rockets inside of this Redeemer, so that Redeemer can't actually help clear out these Hammerheads. In this case, that anti-air Redeemer would be massive clearing those Hammerheads, but it's not going to happen. It's going to just be 1v1 this Marv, but it's going to be a couple of rockets and a couple of Gunwalkers closing in on the side armor of that Marv. And the rockets are now impacting more of the front armor, so that advantage is starting to disappear. BikeRush owns in space. They have so much value tied up on the left side of the map that there's almost no way for them to stop this army, which is now crossing to the right side. But of course, the same is true for Drive and Rex. I think we're going to have a do-si-do, the switcheroo, swap places, trade partners, and we'll see who's actually able to be the real master of chaos between these two teams. Space is about to lose his MCV. No escape as the EMP from the tripods lands. And that Redeemer is here, able to do what damage it can, but it's not really necessary when you've got so many tripods. And this is a great move from Space, always staying active with these Hammerheads, cutting off reinforcements, slicing off pieces of the army here or there, making sure that it's not a free victory for Drive and Rex. Here we go. Harvester hunting season has begun, and this is time for these Hammerheads to rank up, possibly to infinity. These guys need to be absolutely queued on every single one of these Harvesters, and Space may be running out of time. He can't kill the Harvesters fast enough as the rockets line up their shots. Those Hammerheads will explode as the Marv goes down in the north, and things look dire for Space. He's lost almost all of his infrastructure. He's lost almost all of his production. And Drive and Rex have managed to change positions and escape with their MCVs, escape with their economies, and they have now defeated mostly the Hammerheads, which were giving them so many problems before. And I guess you just sell off some of these base defenses. No, they come back online. 2, 3 Hammerheads down, 4 Hammerheads down, and the last shots land, but they don't get that kill. It's not a full base swap. It's not a full base race between the 4 players, but BikeRush and Space don't have the same kind of momentum that they've had in some of these other matches. Space isn't dead, but he's very, very close. He's climbing further and further up in that bank, and I feel like now is the time to just leave and hand over that $7 grand to BikeRush owns, because, well, he does still have an airfield. I mean, obviously the Juggernauts are also massive as long as they make it to the front line. Oh, the crane got sniped. Rex's crane got sniped out of this world, and yeah, BikeRush owns. I mean, he's in a good spot. Space also has, 5, 6 Juggernauts, so that's a lot of firepower. Truly at this point, it is anyone's game. It looked like Drive and Space were once again just going to steamroll with this classic Marv Juggernaut GDI army that we've seen so many times over the last couple of years be so dominant, be so powerful. But Rex, critically, did not die in the waiting period before he actually... Okay, that's a rifleman. Before he actually got his Eradicator out. And that is the difference between this game and so many of those other games, is Rex. He's actually a participant in these late stages where so many of the wins for Space and Bike came from was that mid to late game where Rex was defeated and hanging on desperately, trying to do anything, and Drive is kind of alone. But it's so different now, and that was what looked like, maybe the wrong move, but that was the best move, to just evacuate the base, save the entire army, let the buildings fall to delay the opponent as much as possible, and reposition to try and find that killer flank. And this is where One click could win the game. This massive line of Juggernauts is susceptible to a couple of support powers. EMP lands. Corruptors get locked down as well. Juggernauts find massive damage. That rear armor on the Eradicator doesn't matter. As, well, the phase will save it. Tripods are here. Corruptors could be sniped, and indeed a couple of them do go down. Eradicator blinks away. Massive infantry line, but that's a lot of... Well, no, that's mostly rockets from Drive. For a second, I thought I saw mostly Confessors, but it is mostly rockets. Nicely done. Once again, BikeRush Owns comes in with the clutch kill on those pretty massive. For a second, I thought those rockets all had Tib core, but I think there was like a Mantis or something in there. Bikes sneaking off to the right side. Maybe able to pick up a couple of kills. Maybe not. Juggernauts absolutely deleting units. Goodbye, fully heroic Gunwalker. Blink away. RNG is not good enough. You get caught. And are the Juggernauts close enough to get the kill? No escape this time. You tricked us once, but not again, as Rex loses his Eradicator. Finally, they have done it. The double GDI team have caught and killed that Eradicator. That is what they have been looking for the last couple of minutes, and now suddenly this army has to turn tail and run. Everything turns, and that might be the winning move for BikeRush and Space. Hammerheads come through, cleaning up some of these units. Stragglers left behind. Rex and Drive definitely do still have a pretty massive army between the two of them, but losing that Eradicator, that was their damage sponge. That was their trick pony, which would dazzle and amaze and surprise their opponents. But, okay, Engineer going to cap that tip spike on the left side. Good choice. But now they've lost it. And the tech reset already happened. I'm sure Rex has rebuilt from that. Oh, he does have a gravity stabilizer, so that's well, two of them. I mean, that's a good insurance policy. I'm not actually sure where his drone ship went after all is said and done. Storm Riders, once again, the Storm Rider transition not nearly as effective as it was on Hurricane Lands, where it essentially just won the game, and Rex was playing perfectly in that match. But in this case, you know, gets a little bit of value. The Storm Rider is not nearly as powerful in this situation. There's so much anti-air spread out all over the map in the form of rockets and APCs and... Oh, these bikes catching the Hammerheads. The Hammerheads able to fight back. Hammerheads chew through bikes pretty darn quickly, but obviously that Tib core is extremely powerful. And yeah, Space now at 8.5 grand in the bank. As his bank continues to grow and he is unable to spend it, it just sort of more and more feels like it might be time to hand all of that cash over to BikeRush Owns. You know, gear him up for lots of MCVs and lots of production, and then just quit the game and hand it over to him. But at the same time, that means you've got one person versus two hands versus four. More attention, more micro on the blue side of the map if that happens. Space has done a really good job of staying active in this game, getting everything done that he possibly can. Another flame tank sneaking through. We forgot about this one, but it's a staple for Drive in this series. He loves his purifying flame tanks, and that is going to be the end of that flame tank, the end of that Orca as well. But the command post stays strong. The airfield of Space stays strong, and the Orca transition has happened. This is going to be a massive fight in the south. And I feel like Rex never rebuilt. He got knocked down, and he just hasn't done much for the last couple of minutes, and I feel like now they're going to pay the price. 4 tripods coming down from the south. Hammerheads getting caught in the corner, and this time it will be the bikes who are victorious, not the Hammerheads who get the win, and knocking down that air superiority is nice, but will it be enough to save the day? BikeRush Owns is here. Space has tapped out. Everything gets handed over to BikeRush, and it's just him to try and make this work. Orbital bombardment, shockwave artillery not coming to land just yet. but it's going to be a Rage Gen that fires off. Massive trades between the Rockets and the APCs. There, they finally land, but there's the stasis. Huge amount of Juggernauts completely locked down. The tripods are going to try and close the distance right onto the front line. Rockets are cleaning up the last of the APCs, and now it's up to the tripods to move in there for the crush. The Orcas are coming in to support in the last possible second. That stasis, every second is critical. Every extra second matters as the Orcas get annihilated, and stasis still hasn't evaporated, but there, it finally comes offline. Rex is basically out of the game. It's down to Drive. The Redeemer falls. Bike has done it. The Black Hand has fallen. The Scrin has fallen, but the Juggernauts reign supreme time and time and time again. The last ditch play just didn't work. It was one last swing, one final attempt. No backstab on the other side of the map. And that is all she wrote. Drive crashing down, Rex crashing down, and BikeRush owns comes through with the win once again. The Red Juggernaut army will never be stopped. Drive and Rex have yet to admit it. BikeRush owns. He's got that Juggernaut. Oh, the Hammerheads catch the bikes as well. There is every opportunity is being sewn up and cleaned out. Drive has been defeated. The GG comes out. A phenomenal series from these four players. A huge round of applause for everyone involved. But in the end, BikeRush and Space start with a win, and they end with a win. Double GDI reigns supreme in this series. Better luck next time. An absolutely epic 2v2 series here in Kane's Wrath. A phenomenal set of games going the extra mile all the way to the ace match as these four players put on a phenomenal showcase for us. Huge thanks to Shanks for making this all happen. Thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. And this is Sybert signing out.